remind committee members and members of the public to follow our code of conduct at meetings. This includes commenting on the specific agenda item only and addressing the full body. Public speakers will not engage in a conversation with the chair, specific council members, or staff. All members of the committee, staff, and the public are expected to refrain from abusive language. Failure to comply with the code of conduct, which will disturb, disrupt, or impede the orderly conduct of this meeting, will result in removal from the meeting. And now, with that, I will call the meeting of the Transportation and Environment Committee to order. Can the clerk please call the roll?
Foley, Perales, Esparza,
Here.
Cohen, Davis,
Here, and I think call on Councilmember Foley again.
Foley. Thank you.
Sorry.
So we have quorum, and Councilmember Cohen, if you are here, I can see you on the screen, but we can't hear you, just so you know. All right, with that, we will go to item B, which is the review of the work plan. There is one item that is recommended to be dropped, and the only reason it's recommended to be dropped is that it will come forward in the next fiscal year. So rather than being heard today. So can I get a motion for that item?
Move to drop. Second, or I'll second.
Thank you.
Either way.
Do any members of the public want to comment on the review of the work plan? The item to be dropped is Municipal Regional Stormwater National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System Permit Semi-Annual Report. All right, I don't see any members of the public who want to comment, so can we have the roll, please?
Foley,
Aye.
Perales, Esparza,
Yes.
Cohen, Davis.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to item D1. This is first report to the committee, which is City Generated Tow Services Delivery Model Status Report. Rachel, do you want to get us started, or Chris, did you want to kick it off?
Sorry, I'm here. My audio I just got it working finally. Thanks.
All right, we can hear you now, Councilmember Cohen. Thank you. Chris?
Thanks, Chair. Actually, Rachel's going to kick us off. I'm just fill her until she's ready.
Thank you. Let me go ahead and share the screen. Okay, so we are presenting today our City Generated Tow Services Delivery Model Status Report. I'm Rachel Roberts. I'm the Deputy Director of Code Enforcement, and I'm here along with Captain Carlos Acosta and Sergeant Kevin Seabury. As you know, Chris Burton, our director from PBCE, is also here, and then also our Deputy Director, Andrea Flores Shelton from Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services. One moment. Okay, so our city-generated tow services status report will provide a background of the city-generated tow services, as well as recap of our key tow audit recommendations and work plan goals. And we'll also cover the progress and outcomes we've had to date. And then we'll be taking a look at our current status and service delivery environment. And then lastly, our work plan objectives and our target dates for the upcoming fiscal year. So to provide a recap for the committee and the public, the city-generated tow services are tows that are conducted at the request of city departments to remove a vehicle from public property. These tows are primarily requested by the police department or the Department of Transportation, and are usually requested in order to remove a vehicle from an accident scene or to eliminate a road hazard. Vehicles may also be towed as evidence in a criminal case, or when it's been determined that a vehicle either being abandoned, inoperable, or illegally stored must be abated from the public right-of-way. We have agreements with 6 tow companies that provide these tow services across our city in their assigned respective zones. And on average, we conduct approximately 14,000 of these city-generated tows annually. In January of 2019, City Council did accept the City Auditor's audit of towing services, which evaluated the city-generated tow service delivery model and also provided 17 recommendations for improvement. We also presented an administrative response at that time, and which included 4 primary goals. And these recommendations and goals have guided our work over the last few years. So just to provide a refresher, I've listed here some of those key audit recommendations, as well as our key work plan items. So for our tow audit, those recommendations included issuance of a new request for proposal, for the tow services agreements, as well as exploring the continuance of junk vehicle reimbursement program or potentially new contract fees to account for the cost of junk vehicle disposal. And then also provided a recommendation that we consolidate the contract administration in the police department with evaluation of the resources needed in order to perform that responsibility. As part of the administration's response, we provided in the work plan, our 4 key goals were to address all 17 tow audit recommendations, develop a new city-generated tow service delivery model that better met the needs of the community and the city, and then develop a request for a proposal reflecting that new service delivery model and recommend an award of contract. And then lastly, to transition the program over to PD. So our work plan progress to date, we've done quite a bit of work, as the committee, I'm sure knows, since the initial audit report. I've listed out here according to the fiscal year. However, we have completed a total of 4 amendments, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th amendments to the agreement. We've also provided status reports to the T&E committee in November of 2019, as well as February of 2020 and May 2021. And we were able to maintain the continuity of our tow operations through the COVID-19 pandemic, despite the challenges that the city and the operators were facing at that time. Since our last T&E committee meeting in May of 2021, we did extend the agreements, exercising our option 2 of 5. And so those agreements are valid through March 31st of 2023. And we've worked with the finance department on the RFP scope of work in preparation for its release to the public. We've also continued our ongoing internal as well as external coordination meetings with our key stakeholders and our tow operators. However, as noted here, outlined in red, the RFP, the request for proposal released to the public, was placed on hold in March. So as a result of those work plan outcomes and our progress, we have been able to maintain our improved communication and coordination, as well as our continued service delivery improvements, including the reduction of our tow refusals and late tows. As I mentioned previously, we've maintained the continuity of operations through the COVID-19 pandemic, and we're able to provide financial relief to the operators to offset the increasing number of junk vehicles that were being towed over the last few years, including those disposal costs, and also to offset the declining release rates that we are seeing. And then we implemented and partly implemented several of the tow audit recommendations that were put forth. So where are we at today? With the implementation of the city's encampment management strategy and safe relocation policy, as well as the council direction regarding the Guadalupe Gardens fencing project, we've seen a pretty significant impact to our city-generated tow services. The goal for the Beautify SJ team to remove all the vehicles from the Guadalupe Gardens area and waterways by September 30th of 2022 has created additional tow service requests that we hadn't seen previously. We are seeing a larger number of large tow volume events, which usually includes the tows of at least 12 vehicles or more. And so we've seen this increase in number as well as frequency. We've also seen an increase in related junk tows and disposal costs, with Beautify having towed 92 vehicles in this fiscal year alone. And we are now estimating potentially up to 250 vehicle tows as part of the Beautify SJ abatement work for fiscal year 22-23. So given these impacts, staff did pause the release of the tow software and contract administration RFP in March of 2022 so that we could evaluate these impacts and currently, as well as into the future on the city generated tow services, the agreements, as well as the scope of the RFP. And we are now currently in the process of updating the RFP scope in order to reflect these current and future Beautify SJ tow service needs prior to release. To ensure continuity of tow services, as we work through this stage, we had extended the contracts, as I mentioned previously. We're also evaluating the need to reinstate the junk vehicle tow disposal cost reimbursement model, which was sunsetted in 2021. And then also looking at, as part of that reinstatement, having to draft a 6th amendment to the agreements in order to reflect the Beautify SJ tow service needs and reimbursement model. And we are continuing to coordinate with our operators and all the involved departments. So as far as our work plan for 22-23, taking into account all the items I've just mentioned, we are looking to continue to complete the scope to the RFP and hopes to resubmit that to the Finance Department Procurement Group in July of 2022. We will continue to develop the 6th Amendment and bring that forward for Council's consideration in August of this year. Unfortunately, at this time, the release of the RFP as well as award of contract is to be determined pending that resubmission to the Procurement Board. However, we will continue to work with the Police Department on developing the transition plan, so we are ready to go once we reach that milestone, as well as look at the budget proposals that will need to come forward to support the tow program, as well as contract administration and software maintenance and implementation for either mid-year or fiscal year 23-24 as appropriate. And we will continue our coordination with our internal and external stakeholders, as well as work to complete those remaining open audit recommendations. And with that, we request that the committee accept our status report, and we're here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to members of the public for their comments first.
Caller 5931.
Yes. Can you hear me? This is Jerry Stranzo.
We can hear you, Jerry.
Good. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee in hearing this item. Special thanks goes out to Rachel and her team that's been working very diligently to improve the system. I actually represent 3 of the 6 tow operators, Motor Body, Alonji Brothers, and City Tow. So really, we're in absolute support of Councilmember Deb Davis's memo. We're anxious to respond to the RFP to improve the efficiency of the tow contract. The software technology, third-party administration that would be implemented is something we think will make sense. Staff has suggested that now for over a year, and we've been waiting patiently for the last 6 months for the release of the RFP. So we're hoping, as indicated by staff, that the RFP will be out by hopefully August, and we look forward to responding to try to improve the system. Thank you very much for your support, and urge the rest of the council members to support Councilmember Davis's memo. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Councilmember Esparza.
Thanks. I wanted to, I've been hearing a lot of conflicting things. So as we ask about tows and the waits for tows, one of the things we're hearing is in my office is there's a long wait. And then, you know, we go to ask someone else and it's like, no, the tow operators are complying with their, with the contracts and there's no wait. In the community, there's a wait. And so I wanted to hear more of sort of the conflicts with Beautify SJ. If you could expand on that, please. Just on managing the tows, and we did also offer some incentives under the updated agreement. Are the tow operators meeting those requirements so that they should continue to get those incentives? Or do we need to revisit that before an RFP goes out?
So generally speaking, they are meeting the service delivery expectations. There was a point in time where we were having some challenges with the particular zone, but those seem to be improving. So we're hoping to see that continue. As far as the Beautify SJ efforts, really, I think a key piece is coordination, and we re-implemented our internal working group that includes PRNS, DOT, code enforcement as the tow contract administrator, as well as the police department, to talk through any challenges or issues as they arise. And that's happening on at least a monthly basis, if not more frequently as needed. And so one of the things we already identified was just an improvement in our communication so that those events aren't overlapping, because what we were finding is that, if we weren't on the same page as far as our timelines, that the operators were getting hit with requests that they may not be equipped to handle all at once, competing requests, whether it was like a public works related construction towing event going on, or a a removal of vehicles in particular neighborhoods, or related to Beautify SJ. So we're making improvements in that regard. So we do hope that you will see those improved effects throughout, because that is a key piece of what we're making sure we focus on, is that it doesn't impact the day-to-day city generated tow service deliveries.
Okay, thank you. I'm just gonna state that I'm hoping that later this month, when we vote on the budget and we set some funds aside to really have barriers for cars driving in our waterways and other places in the first place, hopefully that will help on the Beautify SJ side of it, because I have seen those impacts, and I'm hoping the coordination helps, and I'll actually stop right there. So I'll stop right there. Thank you, Rachel. Great report. Thanks.
I want to go back to the public, because the person who had their hand up, I think, might have gotten kicked off and now has their hand up again. Giovanni, did you want to speak on this item? All right, we're not able to hear you. Okay, I do have some questions as well, if no other members of the committee have questions. I see no other hands. Rachel, I appreciate the report. I have some questions. I didn't see it in the memo. You mentioned in your presentation the implementation or partial implementation of several of the tow audit recommendations. However, they weren't listed out in the memo. Unless I missed it, please let me know where they are, which ones have been implemented, and which ones have been partially implemented, and which ones are still outstanding. Is that something that we can get? Obviously, maybe not now, unless it's already in the memo and I just missed it.
Yes, so I did handle that in the memo by providing the link to the most recent city auditor's update on the status of recommendations, but I'm happy to forward that to the committee again, just in a separate email, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be great. I thought was that from, I may have missed it. Was it in a footnote or something?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. And then the other question I have is, how much does the RFP have to change based on the Beautify SJ requirements? Because we're talking about software. Is the software requirements really going to be different?
So, RFP includes the software component, but it also includes the tow contract administration as well as the option to subcontract directly with the operators. So if we have a proposer who is willing to take on that role of contracting directly with the operators, which would take the city out of that role, then it is a factor because we have to provide our performance standards and expectations of service delivery as part of the request for a proposal. So we will be adding in a section that just speaks to Beautify SJ events specifically, so that it's very clear what our needs are.
Okay. My understanding is that so the software requirements are not going to be changing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there any way we could split these items into two and let the software go forward? This has been something that I've been hearing from the tow companies has been a pain point for quite some time. And the fact that it continues to be delayed is very concerning, especially given what Councilmember Esparza has been saying about delayed tows and what she's been hearing out in the community.
So that we were following previous direction that we had received from both council and the committee as far as the scope of the RFP. I think to bifurcate it at this point, we would have to circle back with the procurement team to understand, the implications of making that change. I would still suggest that we move forward with it as proposed, but of course, I think you guys have a say in that.
All right, I have to say, I just, I'm really concerned that this is continuing to, I understand the delays from the pandemic, but the fact that this continues to drag on and we continue to sort of add to it over time it feels like we're never going to get across the finish line. And that was part of the reason, just for the other members of the committee, that was part of the reason for my memo, is that we need to give staff clear direction that we really want this, this set of tasks to be expedited and completed, because it is a pain point. The towing or lack thereof in our community is a pain point for many residents, and for us to be able to get back to a level of service that I think we all expect, and that I know our residents expect in the area of towing vehicles that are on our city streets and in our public property. I think we need to make it clear to staff that we want to expedite this body of work. So I would very much appreciate the motion that accepts this report also moves my memo forward. Don't all jump at once.
Yeah,
Councilmember Perales.
Yeah, I wanted to just, I'm comfortable so long as I understand from staff what's that going to do. Is that gonna delay things maybe even further, or are we gonna be on sort of a similar timeline? So I'm just kind of curious on what that might actually look like. I would agree with Councilmember Davis, right? Obviously, I think all of us share some frustration, and I know that this is not the intent of anyone to have a delay as we've had, or to have the challenges that we've been facing, but we do want to get to a resolution. So, but I did want to hear from staff, just what is the reality of our chair's direction look like for you as next steps if we were to approve that?
Well, it wasn't, and I apologize, it wasn't clear to me about the bifurcating the software separate from the.
Just an idea I just had, Rachel.
Okay.
It wasn't in the memo.
Yeah, so there are some, at least from my perspective, some concerns with that, because part of us, modernizing the current service delivery model ties in directly with the software. So it would be hard to move in the direction we'd like to move with the software without changing the requirements.
Rachel,
Go ahead, sure.
I think the question is that on the direction in the memo, not the conversation about the bifurcation, but the direction in the memo. Does that create what is staff's perspective on whether that accelerates the process or delays the process? The direction.
Yes, that is a
Yeah,
that is the correct interpretation.
yeah. Does it, the prioritization within
Yes.
of it? Yeah.
That would move, I mean, right now, it's my understanding finance, the procurement group has 9 other pending requests for proposals. And so we would have to be reevaluated and reprioritized among those other submissions. And so if this committee were to direct staff to prioritize this toast offer or this RFP, yes, that would help to expedite our process.
That, and
Thank
I'm
you.
curious on that trade-off, right? So like what would we be bumping, right? That's on the list potentially, because I'm not certain of what these 9 other RFPs that are out there through procurement. So I don't know if you know that answer, if there's anybody in the city manager's office that knows that.
I can get you that list. I would not want to speculate. Obviously, this is one of our biggest bottlenecks in our weak spot at this point, is particularly procurement and technology procurement. So the board that does this internally has gone through the process, but I don't know that we have that list handy. Let me see if I can grab it really quick and get back to you.
So that, again, that's my only concern, is I want to just be totally aware of trade-offs may be, right? What if we're going to say, hey, let's prioritize this, let's put this up in the front of the line, then there may be something else that equally all of us here are also passionate about and want to see. And I just don't know that, right? I'm not aware of that. So I would like to have that answer before we give this direction. And I'm fine. I don't know, Chair, if you wanted to table it until we have that answer, or if you know anything further on that, Chair.
Thanks. We can table it. I know Councilmember Esparza has her hand up, and so while Kip is looking for the answer, we can certainly have Councilmember Esparza.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask some of the same questions he did. So and I'm comfortable with tabling it until we can get the answers.
Happy to do that.
And I had a couple more questions, so I could ask those while we're waiting. Thank you. And this, I think it's a little bit along the lines, but it's actually kind of searching for where there may be another challenge. My understanding is part of the challenge with some of these vehicle abatements could also be on the interpretation of what is happening with the vehicle, right? Is it occupied or not? And then a vehicle being kind of cleared out of the system maybe too soon, and then ultimately we see these vehicles sitting for months and months that likely should have been abated but weren't, and so maybe not even at the fault of the tow company, but somewhere in between. So I'm curious on that, right? Like, is there any work being done to try and identify other challenges that are not necessarily directly related to the workload challenges of our tow companies, the technology challenges, but something with actually the way that we're going out and applying our own set of rules on when we will actually tow a vehicle or abate a vehicle.
So unfortunately, DOT is not with us today. They would probably be best to help answer that question, but I can tell you that there are DMV laws that require us to go through a certain process before we can tow a vehicle. So, I mean, that definitely, just having to adhere to those requirements can present delays or challenges.
Okay, yeah, it would be helpful to, I guess DOT's not here. My understanding is, and I have had some personal experience with this, where I think the wrong interpretation is made, right? And you have a human being that's gonna effectuate some error, right, of interpretation, but that in those circumstances, we may have vehicles out there that are sort of getting written off and disqualified from being abated when maybe they should be, and yet I don't know, right, how best to resolve that, other than, right, is it auditing, is it training, something that could be done there. And if you're saying maybe it's best to have the conversation with DOT, I just think that that's what I was saying. It's a piece of this. It's not exactly directly related to the RFP and the tow companies themselves, because they're gonna, right, once we get to that point and they're coming out and deployed and ready to pick it up, I think we have, right, we understand how that works. This is the in-between where somebody is making an actual decision on it. And unfortunately, I think that interpretation and the decisions that are being made are not always correct, and we're running into some challenges there. So that was all my questions, though, and other comments, and I guess we can table for now until we have better understanding from the city manager's office on those trade-offs.
Yep.
Yes, we're also, I'll have this conflict for you in a second, and I know Jessica's working to get the appropriate folks from DOT on the line to have the larger conversation. So
Right.
in process and things coming, and we can always come back to this item if we want to keep going on others and come back. I'm not quite sure how the process will be, but I think I'll have those, both of those for you momentarily. Jess, is that
Yeah, our Assistant Director, Laura Wells, is actually on the public side of this Zoom, so
Great.
we can easily pull her over. I don't want to misspeak on any of the specifics of Councilmember Prowse's question.
Perfect. So if we could ask for the clerk to promote her to a panelist and then pull her over, and Laura can address some of the council members' questions, and then I'll follow up as soon as I have the list.
Is Laura joining via phone number? I don't currently see her name, but I do have a.
The phone number, it was the public speaker
Oh,
from
correct.
before.
Yeah. So Laura is not currently on the attendee side yet.
Why don't we table this item for now and move on to item D2, the major local transportation planning report, while we're waiting for folks to get some answers to some questions. How about that?
Excellent.
Francis, you want to get us started on D2?
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. Ramses Madhu, Division Manager of Planning Policy and Sustainability. I'm going to do a quick introduction and then pass it off to Natasha Upfeld. So as we usually do every 6 months or so, we bring together a compendium of all of the transportation planning efforts we have going on in the city. And that's the memo you received for this item. A couple highlights. This is a really big year for transportation planning and policy. We've been doing a great deal of work to bring forward the plans and policies needed to implement the council's vision from the general plan, as well as Climate Smart. We have some really big things coming this year, including kind of in order of appearance for the full council. We have parking and transportation demand management. We have the Move San Jose Plan and Transit First policy. And we have a couple area plans, including the West San Jose Transportation Plan, the Downtown Transportation Plan, as well as an update to our Policy 5-1. As we do with each report here, we highlight one or two efforts that either haven't gotten enough exposure to council or otherwise are in a state of maturity that getting input from the committee is most worthwhile. This time we're highlighting the West San Jose Multimodal Transportation Improvement Plan. Natasha Upfeld is the project manager of that, and she'll be taking over in just a second to go through a presentation on that. It's important to bring up how these multimodal transportation improvement plans work. A lot of times these plans have overlapping areas. So this one, for example, has overlapping areas with the DISC plan, as well as the in-process downtown transportation plan. These overlapping areas help us align what the projects are and make sure that the overall vision and intention of the plans congeals. So as we go forward to implement projects, we're getting the right direction from all of the different influences that need to get in there. So that is kind of the way the geography works together. Also, for each plan that builds on top of the next one, right? So DISC was already adopted. So the DISC plans are to become adopted existing conditions for the next plan, such as West San Jose. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Natasha Upfeld to dig into the presentation. Thank you. And actually, one more thing. Sorry, Natasha. As always, we're happy to take questions on anything in the memo after Natasha's presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members, and members of the public. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. Can you all see the correct presenter screen? Great. My name is Natasha Opfeld, and I'm an Associate Transportation Specialist with San Jose DOT in the Planning Group. And I'm here to talk to you all today about the West San Jose Multimodal Transportation Improvement Plan, or how we lovingly shorten it, the West San Jose MTIP. So a quick overview of what I'm going to present about today. We're going to talk about the West San Jose MTIP large scale goals, what we've learned so far, touch a little bit on outreach and our existing conditions. How can we achieve our goals? And that's through our proposed improvements in modal networks. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about implementation. This presentation is pretty high level. The plan is pretty extensive, and I'd be happy to share details when those times come, but I really just wanted to give you guys a bird's eye view of what's been happening. So here is our project area and our guiding principles. The guiding principles of the West San Jose MTIP were to improve mobility by providing more choices of travel for all users. That's people who bike, walk, take transit, drive, carpool, etc. We also wanted to improve public safety and health, preserve community character, and create opportunities for neighborhood growth. And we wanted to do this all with a focus on social and racial equity. Here on the left, you can see the West San Jose MTIP project area. It pretty much centers around Stevens Creek and Winchester Boulevard, but it was designed to encompass all the adopted West San Jose urban village areas with a half-mile buffer around them to account that, when we're traveling around West San Jose, we don't just stay in the urban villages, but we really wanted to connect them to, neighborhoods in West San Jose and back and forth. Here's a high-level project timeline overview. We started this project way back in fall of 2019, and due to the pandemic, we weren't able to really get started with our outreach till spring and summer 2021. That's when we kicked off community outreach phase 1 with a large-scale public workshop that was held online. We presented to various neighborhood associations, and we collected all of that data to propose our initial projects. After we came up with those, we launched into community outreach phase 2 to get people's opinions on those proposed projects. And then we developed our draft plan. Hopefully in fall 2020, we're able to bring it to you all in the larger council for consideration. So here's an overview of our outreach to date. This project really began during the urban village development phase. So DOT staff was present at almost all the urban village workshops and focus groups to hear from the community about their transportation concerns and issues. Then during the MTIP outreach phase 1, we held that large scale workshop. We did various tabling events. One photo is from Starboard Park movie night over the summer. That was really fun. We were able to do a lot of these outreach events in Spanish. We did an online survey, and we also did various technical advisory meetings where we met with VTA, Public Works, and other groups just to make sure that we were on track for doing the proper feasibility analysis. Then we're currently wrapping up our outreach phase 2. We had a larger scale online workshop to talk about the proposed projects. We will be holding online office hours to discuss the final draft of the plan with interested parties, and we will be attending various other neighborhood association meetings to share the final plan. Sorry if my computer is stalling. There. So what did we hear from all this outreach we did? We heard lots of things, but it really centered around 3 key transportation themes. One was the need for pedestrian improvements. People in West San Jose want to feel comfortable and safe while they're walking around. More trees and street lighting, safer crossings, and wider sidewalks. There was also a really clear call for improved bike infrastructure and connectivity. People wanted more protected bike lanes, slower vehicle speeds on neighborhood streets. They wanted a safe place to park their bikes when they got to where they were going. And they really wanted to see an expansion of bike share and other micromobility services into the West San Jose area. There was also a desire for better public transit. People wanted more options. They wanted to get there fast and reliably, and they wanted better first and last mile connections. So here I'm going to go into kind of the key proposal areas that the MTIP is looking into. So first and foremost, we really wanted to anchor a lot of this work in supporting improved transit systems. And the approach to the West San Jose MTIP was to look at the project area as a whole and identify these key networks where we could do these improvements holistically. So I'm going to share with you our transportation priority corridor network. So these streets are highlighted in purple, and these are key corridors where we will improve them to facilitate transit first, things such as public service lanes, better bus stops, and I'm going to share a little bit about that toolbox with you right now. So we have, various things we shared with the public, and we heard from the public that they wanted, such as safe routes to transit. Everyone that takes transit is a pedestrian, so they need to get there safely. Bus bulbs to help, have more room for the bus to pull over. Transit priority signaling, new and improved transit services. There's a ton of stuff we can do along these corridors, and all of the transit priority corridors have a set of improvements that we're recommending as part of this plan. I don't have a toolbox for each one because of time today, but again, I can share more details about that later. So another key, strategic area of the MTIP was to create safer and more enjoyable streets for people walking. And we came up with a pedestrian priority network. You can see that those transit priority corridors are also in this as the purple corridors. That's because, like I mentioned, every person taking transit is a pedestrian. We really want to encourage safe access to transportation to and from. We also have these pedestrian priority corridors in yellow, which are Meridian, Race, and Lincoln. And these are key retail corridors that we think we can enhance the pedestrian experience to have people enjoy their time on the street. This is through pedestrian scale lighting, more street trees, wayfinding, and other amenities that we can use to improve the pedestrian experience. Another touch point for us in the MTIP, is super important, is investing in comprehensive and accessible bike infrastructure. And we have a lot of bike priority corridors identified throughout West San Jose. So these bike priority corridors can be anything from a bike boulevard, which is encouraging traffic calming and a slow, calm street that bikes and cars can share. And also, fully protected bike lanes. And we've identified projects, that cover all, everything in between. We also wanted to foster beautiful and active communities through placemaking. So along all the project priority corridors that we just listed, we want to ensure that we're taking opportunities to invest in landscaping, public art, placemaking, so that people can enjoy the street as they're, traveling through it. And finally, with all these infrastructure improvements that we're proposing, we really wanted to support that infrastructure with programs and policies that encourage sustainable transportation choices. So within the MTIP, we do have recommendations to explore things such as electric vehicle charging stations, car share, mobility hubs, which are kind of one-stop shops where you can get a car share, get on transit, have micro-mobility access, things like real-time arrival and other technological advances we can put near transit, and all sorts of really exciting things. Finally, how are we going to make all of this happen? Every MTIP has an implementation chapter where we explore all the various funding opportunities that we might have. We have local sources such as our capital improvement plan program here in DOT. We have our pavement maintenance program, which is actually a really awesome way that we're able to implement quick build or near-term projects with paint and plastic on certain streets. And we also have opportunities to work with our development review group to, as new development comes in, see how they can help us implement some parts or pieces of these projects. We also have regional, state, and federal sources of funding. These are usually through large-scale grants. These come from Caltrans, USDOT, MTC, BTA, and our previous MTIP, which is En Movimiento, our East San Jose MTIP, has been really successful in getting a lot of these grants. One, because of the amount of outreach that has been done and kind of community vetted projects that are recommended, but also because of a really technical, data-driven approach that we've taken to really justify and prioritize these projects. And to the right is a really kind of 2-second elevator explanation of how our MTIPs work. So projects are, put into the MTIP, we identify funding, we develop a design, we construct the project, and we do a thorough before and after evaluation of each project. And throughout all of these phases, we do community outreach to ensure that the public, knows as much as possible about these projects and also is aware of the decisions that can be made, by them throughout each step. So finally, I'll open it up to questions and discussions. I really thank you for your time today. And I'm happy to take any comments, questions. Should I stop sharing my screen?
Yes. Thank you, Natasha. We'll go to members of the public first.
Giovanni?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
All right, sorry about that earlier. I just wanted to go back to earlier and thank you, Dev, and your team for what you're doing to beautify San Jose. I live in a hot spot where abandoned cars get left all the time, so I appreciate the efforts of cleaning up the streets. And then for the presentation that just happened right now, I just wanted to encourage, I don't know if this is appropriate to encourage this or not, but there's been a lot of fatalities, from people actually using crosswalks, but it's been dark in the darker areas, and then people get hit, and the people that hit them don't get caught. So I was just trying to see if there's a way to maybe get some cameras on those that you guys are trying to get into all these dark, high risk zones. That's all I had, really. I don't need all the time, but thank you.
Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Councilmember Cohen?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to the transportation team for this report. And as Ramsey said, you're doing a whole lot around the city. So it doesn't go unnoticed by me how much work goes into each of these plans and how many plans you have going at the same time. My first question is about the fact that there's so many different plans. There's some sequential prioritization of which plans get done first. Is that correct? So for example, this plan is ahead of my understanding is this one's ahead of the Berryessa plan, but how is this sequenced, and what are the milestones to know when you move on to the next plan?
Yeah, I mean, it really has to do with resources and then timing into when those resources came in. And then also we do a little prioritization around kind of where lots of development is coming in particular, and kind of need to map up things, right? So, or match things up. Why is this one in front of the Berryessa? The question you're asking, right?
Well, I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, but as an example,
In general, there's an order, and I know there's a downtown plan as well. So I assume there's some order between how these plans are going to get implemented and what the timelines are.
Right. So there is an order. Is it prioritized kind of beforehand? Not necessarily, right? I'll say two things. One, yes, it's prioritized in the sense of when we choose to go get grants, we're prioritizing the areas that we see the most need. What defines the most need, right? Usually that there's the most change coming to an area that's foreseeable, right? And so downtown, as we all know, is blossoming. West San Jose is going. Berryessa, what's interesting there is the transportation plan, most of its conclusions were integrated into the urban village plan. We're still going to get the MTIP there move forward, but we didn't see as much urgency since much of its impact was already incorporated in the urban village plan. Yeah, so there's kind of multiple layers there, right? Anyways, I'll stop there. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess what you're saying is that you don't necessarily, it's not like the entire plans get completed and you move on. Elements get done as they're needed in each of the areas.
Yeah, that's really important, right? I mean, these plans are multi-layered, right? There's big projects that will take 10, 20 years to get done. And there's things that will get done in the next pavement cycle, right? And so these plans have pretty large swaths of time in terms of when they're actually going to get done, in terms of all the projects enumerated based on the complexity, funding, and then prioritization. And I'll put one other chip in here. As we do prioritization, we are going to be doing that through the lens of the Move San Jose citywide transportation plan to help us make sure that we're prioritizing things writ large across the city within the goals given to us by council.
I understand, and that's important is when you're trying to do bike connectivity, for example. All these, we can't really just do one part; you have to do the whole thing. Now, Natasha, I know you were told to stop sharing your slides, but I wanted to just quickly go back to. There was one slide that was the introduction slide to the bike lane infrastructure. I don't know didn't see your slide numbers, so I'm not sure which slide it was, but the slide right before that, I think.
Let me go back.
You don't have to put it in presentation mode, but I just wanted to quickly look at just the slide for reference. That one. The reason I'm bringing this up is I've had some conversations with folks about this idea of trying to do greening at the same time as we do bike lanes. And I know these are generic pictures that you've gotten from somewhere. But we've typically done bollard delineators right between transport vehicle lanes and bike lanes. It would be great. And I've talked to some folks about whether it's possible to pilot in certain places this sort of green type of separation where you put back in some green space and allow for some natural drainage and keep things out of the sewer system, filter water as it goes back into the ground, in addition to making things look better. I know this is a budget question as to whether we have budget, but I'm curious as to whether we might identify some locations, whether it's within the West San Jose plan or elsewhere, to do it this way and see how it goes and think of this as a goal, because as we repave streets, we're not doing it. But I wonder if we might try that.
Through the chair, if it's okay, this is Jessica Zank, Deputy Director. It's a great point. Councilmember Cohen, we've been working with many other departments, including Public Works and Environmental Services, to really improve our game on urban greening in general and green stormwater infrastructure as a subset of that for all the runoff reasons, and to try to implement those with our complete street projects. It is a considerably larger capital project, especially when you are going into the ground and you're digging to get these types of multi-benefits, but it's something very top of mind for us is the short answer. We have secured some grant funds that will allow us to do more of these, especially one of those was a Second Avenue in Seattle, I believe, where the planting is above ground, slightly easier to pull off. And so we're working on a couple applications of that, and some of our grant applications going in a week and a half to the active transportation program do include many more trees and GSI potential locations in the ground as well.
Great, I'd love to see it. I just hope that we think about a strategic place to try it.
Right.
I'm even thinking like Stevens Creek, as all this work is being done out there, that beautifying that area with something like this and adding those extra benefits would be great. Last question on, it's not in your presentation, but in the actual memo report, there's a section on electric mobility roadmap and electric vehicle adoption. I saw a note that the Drive Electric program was kind of put on hold, and I know that was partly, it was due to the pandemic at the time, but there's some note there about global shortage and other things. But obviously, given what we're going to hear in the presentation coming up later on electrification, on climate, carbon neutrality, and the goal to try to get 80% of new vehicles to electric, obviously this is an important part of it. What are our thoughts about, or your thoughts about when we might start, excuse me, this program again, helping educate buyers before they buy on the benefits and the affordability and what kind of programs are out there to help them buy electric vehicles?
Yeah, as you'll hear in our final item on this agenda, electrification is huge if we're going to get to our 2030 goals, right, of zero emissions. And so education is definitely going to be part of that program, and we're trying to resource it, right, because it takes a lot of money to get people in, to get the right resources to them, and all of that. And so we are waiting for the next budget to get finalized to hopefully get some more council support, sure, but to get more staff members to help us get those kinds of educational possibilities out there. We are continuing to discuss with the organizations that we worked with on the first rounds of this, future rounds. So it is in our work plan to continue it, and we will see it happening. Exactly when isn't totally clear, but it will be. Yeah, it's in our workflow.
Great, and as I always repeat every time we have this conversation, it's important for people to. This is a great program because it helps people understand, what it means to electrify, and dispel the myths that it's expensive for people to do it. Because as you said, it's expensive, but maybe there's a cost to the program, and maybe there's a little bit of upfront cost to help cost shifting. But in reality, if not already, certainly in the future, it actually is cheaper to own an electric vehicle than traditional combustion engine vehicles. And so now it's a matter of helping people understand that, to learn why, to figure out the benefits so that they'll be incentivized to make that decision when they buy their vehicle. If we don't start doing that now, we're going to have a lot of new ICE vehicles on the road rather than electric vehicles when we get to 2030, because people will buy cars between now and then. So just wanted to make that point and hope that we sooner rather than later get back to programs that are going to help people make that transition. All right, thank you.
Councilmember Perales?
Yeah, thank you. And I apologize. I was going to ask you to bring back up the slides as well. And it is the slide with the map on the bicycle access, kind of towards the end. Yeah, that one. Thank you. So I was curious. I appreciate the east-west connection, that direct line, Moore Park, but northwest, or excuse me, north-south is obviously disjointed, and you don't have a solid kind of roadway there as far as I'm concerned. And I've ridden Winchester a lot on my bike. My parents happen to live off of Winchester, and I grew up over off of Stevens Creek Boulevard in West San Jose, and not much has changed, unfortunately, for the access, especially for bikes. And Winchester is just terribly dangerous to ride your bike. And when I saw the sort of the transit priority corridor and the improvements that could be done there, and not really any what didn't look like, so that's my question, it will be, but what didn't look like any benefit to potential bicyclists that may end up using Winchester. And I will say, based on this map, I think people will continue to use Winchester, even as dangerous as it may be. But I was kind of hoping that there would be in this plan some improvements there. So is there something maybe that dives a little deeper that I'm not seeing, or am I reading everything correctly based on the presentation here in the maps, that Winchester is not really going to get any sort of bike improvement?
I can expand a little bit on that. So these maps are our modal priority network. So that is just establishing when push comes to shove and we run out of space, what will get the priority. And for all of our, I'll go back to this map really quickly. For most of our transit priority corridors, such as Winchester, Bascom, and Stevens Creek, through our bike plan, we have identified that, like you said, really extensive bike improvements need to be made, but we need to get really creative when balancing those with transit. So this just establishes the modal priority that, when we get these trade-offs, transit will come first, but that doesn't mean that bike improvements will not be considered every step of the way, and the most, the safest bike improvements won't be considered. So for Bascom, there are fully protected bike lanes being proposed there right now. Winchester, the same, and Stevens Creek is going to be going through a vision study process. It's also in the memo. I didn't have time to talk about it today, but bike safety will be considered along the whole way. It's just a really kind of, when we look curb to curb street space and we're doing those equations of what can fit, it might not be just the straightforward put a fully protected bike lane there. We'll have to do transit islands or center running. It can get really complicated. But these are just,
okay.
Establishing.
Yeah, no,
I don't know,
yeah,
if you wanted to add anything else.
Yeah, sorry, was somebody going to add something else or no?
I don't think so.
So in regards to specifically like Winchester, I know there's certain places that don't even have a sidewalk, right? Because some of these places that have been incorporated and properties that literally stretch out to the roadway. I don't know how we deal with that, but obviously it's a challenge, right? It makes a challenge for everybody, for pedestrians and bicyclists. It makes a challenge for what we may do on the roadway. I know specifically along Stevens Creek, and this is kind of now on the wearing the other hat of a transit rider. There were times where I would race the bus on my bicycle, and I would literally beat it from stoplight to stoplight, at least for about a mile or two, and then I'd get tired and would stop racing it, and it would beat me. But you could essentially ride your bike, between stoplights sometimes, right, as fast as or faster than the bus. And so in that sense, right, I would agree with, we absolutely need to have, some priority on how do we move transit faster, like some of the dedicated lanes. And so I appreciate that. I just also know that, there are some very dangerous parts where, having even just some form of dedicated space or marking, right, is better than nothing, is better than what exists today. And I think if we're going to master plan it like we are, we should be incorporating that. And so that's what I didn't necessarily see in the presentation, and was curious about that. But I think your answer spells it out better, though. Lastly, as we know, Stevens Creek is bordered by Santa Clara. How are we working with them? Because they're on the, right, essentially they're on the partner end of us right there on a lot of those major intersections. And so just what does that look like as far as, partnership for the improvements going along Stevens Creek?
Thank you, Councilmember. Great question. We've been working for the last few years at a staff level as well as at the elected layer to bring us all together, all the way from Cupertino's end down by De Anza College, all the way through San Carlos to Diridon, to get us on the same page as to what's happening on Stevens Creek Boulevard. As you may remember, there's a official committee of electeds from along the corridor, Stevens Creek Steering Committee, that's chaired by the vice mayor, our vice mayor, and we now have almost all of the councils set up to fund a joint vision study, and that vision study is going to look at the whole corridor and bring us all together into a single direction as to what we're going to be doing on that corridor. And then lead us to working towards the grants and all the other funding we'll need to do that as an initial.
So safe to say then that this work doesn't advance until that work is done, right? I mean,
that's right. That's right. The Stevens Creek work requires interjurisdictional, clear given shared direction.
Okay, yeah, that's helpful then. I mean, we for that large section, we split it right down the median, right? And so it's almost like your fence with your neighbor, right? It's like, hey, I want to change the fence, and right. And so yeah, I mean, I think all the plans that we have are great, but absolutely on that large segment there, good to hear that we're continuing to work together on that, and hopefully that doesn't stall our progress if we start making some progress out there in West San Jose, and we're able to align both of those bodies' work. Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the committee like to speak on this item?
Move to accept the report.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second from Councilmember Esparza. I heard first. Can we take a roll call vote, please?
Foley,
Aye.
Perales,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Kip, are we ready to move back to the item D1?
Yes, we are, and we can either start with if the clerk can assist me in promoting Laura Wells from a participant who is now actually a participant into the panel. We can deal with that part of the conversation first, and then afterwards I'm prepared to walk us through a visual representation of how we approach the prioritization and how it relates back to your memo, Chairperson. So I suggest we do it in that order, if that's okay.
That sounds great. Thank you. Since Laura wasn't on before, I can't remember who had the question for Laura.
Councilmember Perales, I believe.
Thank you. Councilmember Perales, do you want to repeat your question?
Yeah, it was more of a rant for a while, and then it ended in a question. But
spare Laura the rant.
Yeah, I'll try to spare Laura. I was really curious on, is there something else we could do to try and relieve where I feel there may be some challenge in getting vehicles abated that has to do with sort of just people perception and maybe error in perception on does a vehicle qualify or not. And it would be in the process in between, obviously somebody reporting it, whoever reports it, it gets reported, and then getting disqualified from being abated. So it never even really makes it to our tow company. So not exactly in line with right, the tow companies and the contracts that we're discussing, but I think in line with the frustration that a lot of our community members have, and part of the equation on why some of these vehicles are not getting abated. And so my question was around, is this better training? Is there something else that we could do? Are you guys aware of, any hiccups here? I know I've had conversations with both your department and the city manager's office, and there have been instances where they've been caught, but they've really just been kind of one-off, and it's, hey, it's, mistakes happen. And I would agree with that because it's, this is a perception error, but we're just curious on your feedback on that as part of this overall challenge with vehicle abatement.
Good questions, Councilmember Perales, and I'll say all of the above. As many of you know, on the council, our vehicle abatement program is different now than it was pre-COVID. And our program now is a hybrid model where we are proactively covering the entire city. At least I would say every street we're reaching about twice a month. And then we're also responding to concerns that come in through 311. And what we are looking for are the worst of the worst, those vehicles that are inoperable as determined by the state. They provide the criteria for an officer to be able to immediately tow a vehicle. And then for those that are significantly blighted, we are marking those vehicles and following up. And if their vehicle is still there in a certain period of time, over 72 hours, then it is tow eligible. The challenge.
Can I pause you real quick, just because based on what you were saying, to get a little more specific, it's not the state, right, making a determination, right? The state makes up the policies. It's a person, right, that interprets those and says, does this qualify or not? And so what I'm curious about, because I know this perception has changed given what person goes out, given right who looks at this, and it's totally inconsistent. And I'm not knocking on anybody, but we see this where where we get some vehicles that I think ideally should have been and would have qualified, and it only comes up time to time because I'm not out there auditing this. I'm not spot checking. It's just eventually it's something gets risen as a big enough complaint, right? Then it gets maybe a little bit more investigation, and ultimately comes to find out every now and then it's like, oh yeah, maybe this vehicle should have qualified, but it wasn't. And so that's kind of what I'm looking for, is how do we become more consistent, right, with the actual perception, interpretation of the state policies, and then saying, yep, this vehicle should be a priority for abatement. We our own policies as well, right? And that's where I'm seeing some inconsistencies, and that's why I was asking: is it training? Is it auditing? What might that be that helps us get more consistent on there?
So the state criteria is fairly black and white. Is it missing a steering wheel? Is it missing an engine? And is that something that the officer can see? Where there's some discretion is on the other side, where we're looking at a vehicle and determining, is it significantly blighted? And with the proposed budget, with the city manager's proposed budget that is before council, we have proposed a boosting of the current program to provide additional opportunities for us to, one, have more officers out on the street, but also to loosen up the criteria that officers use to determine if a vehicle is blighted. So there will be some additional, assuming that the proposed budget is adopted, additional criteria that can be used. But yes, absolutely, training, additional training can always occur, as well as improving our ability to get the criteria out to the public. We use a variety of means now the 311 platform, our website, putting information out on Nextdoor, but we can always improve in that arena.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, again, it's in line with what we're talking about today, but not completely, because I do think it's a bit of a standalone on, right? How do we do better at interpreting correctly some of these vehicles? And again, there's all sorts of accusations out there from community members, right, of people that are being playing favoritism to certain residents and vehicle owners, people that are potentially lazy, right, and don't want to come out and do things. And I don't jump to any of those conclusions. I'm just trying to find out, how do we be more consistent?
Right.
And that's it, right? And how do we ensure that we don't end up with some of these one-off examples that I have seen where you get a car that's literally right up on some sort of bricks or jacks or something, or hubcaps, on the rim, and and got a pile of trash or leaves or whatever underneath it because it's been there for 9 months and it's been reported numerous times, and you can verify nobody's living there, that kind of stuff. And it does happen time to time, and you hear that, oh wait, it's been cleared out a couple of times as didn't qualify, and it's just a head scratcher. And so so that was it. I appreciate you jumping on for that. I know we had another part of the question that I was curious about, which was on the trade-offs of if we were to approve our chair's memo, and I don't think you're here to answer that one, but I think Kip was going to answer that one.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. This is Kip Harkness, Deputy City Manager. So what I want to do is, first, if I am technically able, I'm going to share my screen, and I want to kind of divide this piece into two parts. You should be seeing the recommendation from the chair in her memo here. So the first three items: purchasing the software through existing cooperative agreement, contract with other vendors, or sole source, are sort of alternatives to doing an RFP. And those, if those are feasible, those would not require kind of the reprioritization. So the question is related to what would be the impact of the reprioritization? What else is in the process? So very quickly, without bogging you down in our internal bureaucracy too much, because procurement is one of our biggest pain points right now, and especially technology procurement, we've established an internal board which includes a number of different stakeholders to review all of the RFPs and evaluate the potential requests for proposals, and evaluate them in terms of readiness, degree of complexity, priority alignment, opportunity cost, duration, and risk, and sort of then evaluate them against each other. That gives us basically then 3 buckets. And I'll just go very quickly over those 3 buckets. The first one is those that are actually in flight. And so to give you a sense of what's ongoing, you see 8 projects here, everything from the broadband equipment services, which is much of the East Side community Wi-Fi, as well as our downtown community Wi-Fi, security guard services, financial services, library management, traffic signals, payroll, recreation management, anti-graffiti. So all of these are in flight and would obviously stay in flight. The to be assigned, our backlog, is currently these 8 projects. Everything from San Jose PD automated license plate reader to code enforcement replacement system, internet crimes against children, library system, unified communication service, unified video management service, environmental enforcement data, and real estate asset and lease software. On hold is another list, and the tow piece is literally at the top of the on hold, not saying it's necessarily the next to go on the priority list, but on the top of the at hold, because we're waiting that resubmittal that Rachel talked about. So this is the priority queue that if it came down to those first 3 items weren't able to go, something on here might have to be displaced or lowered in the priority, is how it would take. Having said that, I think if the folks who are on that internal group were here, I think they would request that rather than council trying to direct us to a certain place on the priority queue, that they sort of give their effort to, sort of as it's been worded, that this is perceived as a priority and should be evaluated as such when you do this reprioritization. And the current process, and I'll stop after this, once that piece is resubmitted, it would be reprioritized within this queue. So back to the beginning, I know I said I would stop, but these first 3 items are really alternatives to doing an RFP. And then the last piece would put it in competition, if you will, not with the ones that are in flight, but with those 8 that are in queue. So I will stop here, and Councilmember Perales, if there's additional clarification I can give you, I'm happy to give it a shot.
No, that is very helpful, and also very confusing, because it won't help me make any, as far as any decision on prioritization. But it does help me to move the chair's memo, and I think with just the specificity of what you just said at the end there, which would be that, right, if we are going to bump it up in the list and do some reprioritization, that it's not the council telling you, hey, move this one from number 5 down, right? That you guys will make that decision, and then obviously, hopefully, it's potentially easier, right? As our chair has proposed a couple other opportunities that wouldn't even require the reprioritization. So I'll move your memo, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Esparza?
Thanks. So I wanted to go back to something earlier about the RFP. Does moving this memo impact the timeline for the RFP that Rachel referred to earlier? Does it stop
not
that integration? I want to hear from Kip as well. Does it stop the integration with 311?
No, our understanding of it would be that it would essentially try to accelerate that, not to slow it down. But I'll let Rachel respond since she's a little bit closer to the nuts and bolts of the process. But my interpretation of the direction would be see if you can move the process faster, not to stop the process or decouple it from the different parts that are connected together. Rachel, did you have anything to add, or a different interpretation that I might have missed something on that?
No.
Okay, so that would be our interpretation of the direction, Councilmember Esparza.
Okay, all right. That's helpful. My preference actually would have been to come back with a lot more detail to have a deeper conversation on this. But I would add that we vote and approve on the motion. Councilmember Perales, would you be willing to accept an amendment to have a report back to us on the next T&E meeting?
It's in the memo to come back to us in August, Councilmember Esparza.
Verbal report? Oh, I missed that. Okay. I'm looking at it right now. Hold on. I missed it.
That's okay. I think it's in the discussion, not in the recommendations.
Okay. So then that will be explicit.
I'm fine to make that clear. Yeah, to sort of
back to
raise
us.
it up from the discussion portion of the memo, just to make it clear. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I see it. Thank you, Chair Davis, too, that this reports back to the committee at the August TD. Okay, I'm good. I'm good with it. Thank you.
You want to second the motion then, Councilmember Esparza?
Yeah, I'll second the motion, and I'll add that Kip, for that August meeting, can we have much more detail so that we can have a deeper discussion at that time?
Yes, and if you, just to make sure I've got it, in terms of the overall prioritization process, or detail on the specifics of the RFP related to the tow agreement? And you're muted if you're talking.
Oh, I was talking and I was definitely muted. All right, both. Thanks.
Okay, I'll work to have that changed and bring the right people into the room for that conversation and amend the and it'll be August 9th, I believe, is our next meeting. So I'll work on that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Colleen?
Yes, Madam Chair and council member, committee members, I just want to make sure that we're talking about the scope of work, the work plan with respect to the T&E. So to the extent that you're going to try to reevaluate other types of items that are not within the work plan, I think you need to be consistent with the work plan that you're really talking about this one item that is clearly within your plan. And then as to the other two items, on whether or not it can be a sole source or whether or not it can be added to an amendment to another contract. Those are both legal issues that would need to be explored. And the way I understood the memorandum was that if those other two issues weren't feasible, then you're returning back with the priority.
That's correct.
Yep, same.
Thank you. Any other comments from my colleagues? All right, with that, can we have a motion, please? Or a roll call vote? We've got the motion.
Foley,
Aye.
Morales,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that motion carries. So we are going to move on to item D3, City Roadmap Regional Transportation Activities Quarterly Report. Jessica.
Great. Thank you, Chair Davis and committee members. I will be introducing my colleague Bernice Alanis to you. As you are aware, we regularly report on regional transportation activities, bringing either quarterly or moving forward semi-annually to this committee, items of interest. And the Bart Silicon Valley Extension Phase 2 is certainly of interest. And so we've asked Bernice to come and give an update, especially as the Bart Silicon Valley program has hit some really important milestones of late. So Bernice, I am going to share screen and you will just cue me when to move it forward for you.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. And thank you to the chair and committee members of the Transportation and Environmental Committee for giving me the opportunity to present today. I'm going to give you an update on some of the key activities and aspects of the Bart Silicon Valley Project Phase 2. Next slide, please. This is our new map showing sort of how the project alignment lays within the city of San Jose and into city of Santa Clara. As a reminder, the project is 6 miles long and features a 5-mile tunnel with 4 stations. 3 of those are subway stations in San Jose. And when we say subway stations, we are referring to that you board the train platforms underground, but these stations will have an above ground presence. And then we have our at-grade station in the city of Santa Clara that also includes a train storage facility and maintenance facility. We can go to the next slide, please. This is our timeline for the Bart Silicon Valley Phase 2 project. We are nearing the end of the planning, engineering, and procurement phases and entering into the final stages of design here. We're in this 2018, 2022 timeframe. We are planning to begin passenger service sometime around the late 2030 timeframe. As you can see in the list of activities in the current planning, engineering, and procurement phase, that's the second column on the right, developing the construction outreach management program, and we'll go into more detail on that. It's one of the activities that we are undertaking in this phase. And the transportation management plan, which we call the CTMPs, are important subcomponents of the construction outreach and management program. There will be more detailed information about the COMP and CTMP. Those are the abbreviations for both of those plans. And we'll share some more detailed information in some future slides. For now, I'll mention that we intend to bring the first contract-specific CTMP for Contract Package 2, which focuses on the tunnel and track work, to the City Council for review and discussion later this year, probably closer to the end of the year because of where we are with the CP2 contract. Also, as part of our business resource program development, VTA also intends to continue to work with the city and collaborate on a framework for potential additional resources, such as a business interruption fund or micro grants, prior to the commencement of heavy construction of the 3 stationaries. And as you can see, that's where some of those activities happen between the 2022 to 2028 timeframe. Thus far, also going on right now are our procurement of funding for the program, and we're seeking federal funds through the Expedited Project Delivery Program. The federal government to date has made a commitment of a planned $425 million to the Phase 2 project. We got a commitment of $125 million in August of 2019, another $100 million in August of 2021, and then we just received a proposed allocation of $200 million in the President's budget, proposed budget for FY 2023. Next slide, please. This is how our contract packages are arranged. We have 4 major contracts for the Phase 2 program. Our CP1 contract package resulted from lessons learned on our various extension project. This really is every aspect of the extension and how we operate and integrate with the BART system. So it's all the technical communications and train operations of the system. Our CP2 package, this is the package that the VTA board just gave authorization to the general manager to execute a contract with Kiewit Shea Trailer, JV, and that's for our tunnel and track work. This contract package will be delivered in 2 major phases. Phase 1 is what we've been given the authority to execute that. That is to advance the design and do a more cost certain and schedule certain program for the tunnel and track work elements. And the second phase of this contract, stage 2, will be for the actual boring of the tunnel and doing the shafts for the future stations. So that kind of goes into where we are. I'm going to skip over to CP4. We are holding off on the procurement for our CP4 contract. That is the contract for the 3 City of San Jose stations. And because there's that interdependent relationship between the shafts for the CP2 contract and how the stations will be built on those shafts and how those will be configured, and we're still working on some of those refinements, we're holding off and we've shelved those CP4 stations contract. The CP3 contract is for the Santa Clara station and the rail and maintenance facility in the city of Santa Clara. And I'm good for the next slide. So this is our procurement timeline, and our status to date is the final RFP for contract package 1. That was that systems contract, which focuses on the systems for the overall project, is slated to be issued this summer. For CP2, which focuses on the tunnel and track work, as I mentioned, we gave the authority to the VTA general manager to execute that contract. We're going to be beginning the stage 1 services, I believe, on last Friday. We got our limited notice to proceed to do that. As I mentioned, the final RFP for CP3 Santa Clara station, that is going to be co-located with the yard. That is expected to be released the end of this summer. We've released a draft and we're working on the final configuration for that final RFP. And then, as I mentioned, on the CP4, we're targeting now about quarter 2 of 2024 for awarding the stations contract for those 3 stations in the city of San Jose. And next slide, Erica. This is the station site plan for the Little Portugal 28th Street station. The purple circle is the actual above ground station head house that you see right there. Thanks for the cursor, appreciate that, Jess. The red outline is our construction staging area. That is the entire area that VTA will be procuring and also including the street. And that little portion on the bottom is where we have the former railroad corridor that will be the future part of the trail system. The station entrance shown in purple is on the corner of the site closest to 28th Street and Santa Clara Street. The green boxes represent the underground platform. So those 2 green long boxes, those are both the north and south platforms for boarding. Addition to the stations themselves, there will be facilities for people who walk, roll, and take transit. They're slated to be installed as part of the phase 2 project. For the 28th Street Little Portugal station, these facilities include the plaza area. It's where that little orange circle is right there. Also includes a building exit and entrance on the back side where you see those green platforms. So you can enter the building from both sides, the front and back where the red arrow is, or directly behind that. Also includes a share path along 28th Street, sidewalks, raised and high visibility crosswalks. So there is a safe crossing from the other side of 28th Street and the plaza and the trail. And then we will be doing signals on the street lights so that we can ensure safety for those who walk. We're also providing 250 unsecured and secured bike parking spaces. And you can see this is centered between 101 right there. So just on the west side of Highway 101. Next slide, please. This gives you a good idea of a conceptual architectural rendering of the 28th Street Little Portugal station. Because the station is at the center of the city of San Jose's Portuguese community and many other multicultural communities, the station is designed to reflect those multicultural heritage that surrounds it. It's designed to complement the Five Wounds Portuguese National Parish. It also incorporates traditional Portuguese design treatments, including red and white terracotta exterior. And if you go to the next slide, it'll show some of the interior aspects of this station. This shows some of the Portuguese tile that we're working on. We've also designated some space for public art. We have yet to identify exactly what that public art would be, but you can see that there are several notated spaces where Jessica is pointing with her cursor to incorporate public art into the station. Next slide, please. This is the downtown San Jose station area. This station, there's actually two components to the downtown station. If you look to the far left, this is the main station head house. In the purple box, it's located between the old historical building that's now the Spearmint Rhino, I think that's in there. And then it'll take up the space where the Chase Bank is. We also have some planned TOD in that area. We've worked on a design development framework for the area that comprises that tan box. The red outline is the area that we'll be utilizing for all of our construction and construction staging. Once again, the green area is our platform. The platform is about 700 feet long, and it goes the stretch from, just a little bit east of the center between Market and First Street all the way over to Second Street. That second purple box is where we have a secondary head house that provides additional access and also some more egress facilities. And then if you look to the far, far right at Santa Clara and Third, that is our at-grade vent and emergency egress facilities. As you can see, we're located in close proximity to both City Hall, to San Jose State University. And if you look at the green dotted lines, there's some direct connections to the VTA bus and light rail system. Once again, at the San Jose downtown station, there's improvements for those biking and walking and creating that seamless connection to those stations. We will also have 270 secured and unsecured bike parking stations at the downtown San Jose station. And next slide, please. This is the conceptual architectural rendering of the downtown station. You are looking to the east on Santa Clara Street. You're just east of Market Street, looking at the main entrance. And you can't see it, but there are plans for transit-oriented development atop of that main station head house. Next slide, please. This is the interior of the downtown primary entrance building. As you can see, if you look on the left, there will be a combination of escalators, stairs, and elevators for the vertical circulation. We are still refining some of that exact configuration of how many times you'll switch back. That is an effort, actually, we're just beginning to commence with City of Staff from City of San Jose. And with Spur, we're going to be going through sort of a 90-day refinement period as we're working on the tunnel and track work contract. We will be working with the Cp2 joint venture team, looking at some innovations and what ways we can really enhance the passenger experience, how they access the stations and both get around in the stations to get onto the train boarding. And next slide, please. This is what the entrance will look like to that secondary station. It's smaller, but we anticipate significant use of that also, especially for those accessing the station from the east parts, both coming from City Hall and San Jose State. It's a little more than a block closer to access for the secondary entrance. Next slide, please. This is the site plan for the Diridon station area. And as you can see, once again, the green is where the platform that will be underneath West Santa Clara Street. The purple area is that above ground station head house. The red area is our construction staging area. And we will be working very closely with all of our partners, SAP, as we prepare this area and maintain circulation and access to and through this area. So that is a major effort, and I'll go a little bit more into that construction transportation management plan and the collaboration that will be occurring between VTA, City of San Jose, SAP, and the Google West project. That's a critical element of how we deliver this, and timing and coordinating all the construction efforts to reduce all of the impacts to the area and work with all of our partners in delivering the BART project. Next slide, please. This is a conceptual rendering of the entrance to the Diridon. The entrances will be on the sides of Cahill and Montgomery Street, so it won't be directly in the front. When we looked at the best and most efficient way to enter the stations, it was much more feasible to have patrons entering from the east and the west rather than directly off of Santa Clara Street, and more intuitively to go down the escalators in an alignment that's parallel with the actual platforms. So it just creates a little more seamless access to the boarding of the trains. But this is looking from Montgomery Street to the Diridon station. Next slide, please. This is the interior of the Diridon station. And once again, you can see for all of the vertical circulation, that's what we refer to as going up and down. The combination of stairs, escalators, and a unique aspect of this is we worked through our design review committees on some of the aesthetic treatments of this. And as you can see in the background, the teal was definitely a preferred color in those choices to reflect both our neighbors across the street, SAP and the Sharks. So we've incorporated many of the aesthetic treatments in this rendering that we got the feedback from our design review committee. And next slide, please. These are just some general overall recent project activities. For the project, because we're applying for funding through the Federal Transit Administration, we work very closely with the FTA, and we work with what's called a project management oversight consultant. And we have monthly meetings with the FTA and the project management oversight consultant. We actually have one this Thursday on all of the progress. It's sort of like an ongoing audit of our efforts and management and all the activities, and alerting them of meeting deadlines of things that we've committed to delivering on certain dates, and where we are. Like I report monthly on where we are with our community outreach, where we are with our third-party agreements, reviews by the city of our plans and such. As I mentioned, we just had an additional $200 million allocated to the project out of the president's proposed fiscal 2023 budget. We are in the process of acquiring real estate. We are doing those acquisitions based on project delivery. So much of the acquisitions are going from the west to the east. So, you know, we begin in Santa Clara, but there are some acquisitions related to the area near where the portal will be for the tunnel, I'm sorry. And then the other properties. Majority of the properties are tunnel easements, but there are a fair amount of properties related to the station areas. We are in our second round of cooperative agreements with the City of San Jose. We've executed our master agreement, our first co-op agreement that covers how we work together in the timing for reviews like we've done on the RFPs and many of the plans. And then we are finalizing our second co-op agreement with the City of San Jose, and that covers the review period during the final design, and it also covers the permitting and different things when we begin construction. So we're finalizing that, as well as how we're going to treat roadways and things like that, and do repairs once we've completed construction from our haul routes and et cetera. We're doing our ongoing technical coordination with all our partner agencies. Like I said, as part of those review periods, we advanced design. We conducted stations workshops with SPUR and City of San Jose, and we're going to be doing a series of meetings and workshops over the next 90 days to refine those station designs. And we gave a project update. We have a VTA BART working committee of 4 members of the BART board and VTA that meets a few times a year. Next slide, please. Upcoming project activities, I had mentioned We are summarizing trade-offs for design options for the downtown San Jose and Diridon stations with the within the constraints of the currently approved project. We're looking at safety, connectivity, access, circulation, TOD integration. So excited about that process coming up. We have initiated, we're in the process of figuring out the scope of an independent peer analysis comparing both of the projects that were scoped, the single and twin bore that were environmentally analyzed. We're comparing the single bore project to the twin bore project. That is estimated to take approximately 90 days. We are still continuing with the currently environmentally cleared single bore project, but are conducting this peer review in really an effort to just reaffirm that the direction we're going is the right direction. But as we're advancing on the single bore project, we're also looking to refining that to deliver the best single bore project possible. Next slide, please. Our CTMP, that is our Construction Transportation Management Plan. This is a very, very critical document. And what we did in the CP2 package and the other contract packages, we took the environmental commitments and those are incorporated into what were draft CTMPs, and it gave sort of the rules that the contractors had to bid by. But once the contractor identifies their means and methods, that is what is going to start this year in the latter part of 2022. We will then develop contract-specific construction transportation management plans. So we will be going out to, we'll go through our CWGs, we'll hold public meetings, we're going to be presenting our next set of contract-specific plans to the City Council to then get that final construction transportation management plan and working with all of our partners in that development. So right now what we have and what we required of the contractors were sort of the overarching rules of engagement, and then we'll get into the fine details with input from all of our stakeholders, both the public and our city partners and the businesses and key, and Google and everyone else that we'll be working with as we develop these contract-specific CTMPs. So that specific CTMP effort will start later this year as the stage one activities on the tunnel and track work get more refined. Next slide, please. So this is the process I had mentioned. We're going to have regular coordination meetings throughout the development of those CTMPs, working off of the draft and then entering in with the specific activities. Things might be once we know how they plan to utilize a roadway or where the actual activities are, then that's what we'll say, well, maybe we need to have this particular lane closure, or this is going to be the route that we suggest to reduce those impacts. So this whole process, we start with our contractor, VTA, and city coordination. Then we get the stakeholder engagement and we vet some options, right? We'll put options out. There'll be many trade-offs, right? As we're delivering the construction transportation management plan. There will be impacts, but some of these trade-offs will be, would you prefer this or this? Would you prefer having one lane closed for this amount of time or two lanes closed? And I'm just giving these examples, not saying that's exactly what it will be. Or have this two lanes closed for me half the amount of time, right? And then once we get the input on those trade-offs, that's when we'll present our draft final plan for approval for the actual construction transportation management plan. Next slide, please. We've been, it's been a challenge, as you all know, with COVID to really do outreach and personal interactions with the community, but we are trying to really augment what we've been doing. We are doing a presentation for the San Jose Downtown Association on June 10th. We are going to have some of our community working group summer socials. We're looking in July between the 19th and 21st. We have regularly scheduled CWGs 5 times a year. We are planning what we're calling a community social at the end of August. We're planning on doing that at the downtown block to really let the community know where we're at with the project. We've been doing some website postings and emailings, but we really want the community be able to come out and really see these renderings, understand where the stations are going to be, and really let the community know, like, we're moving forward with this project and construction is just around the corner. We have some other tailored group presentations. We've created a project hotline so you can directly call the project hotline. And right now we just issued, I think Jessica got her postcard in the mail, and anyone who lives fairly close, within a half a mile of the alignment or stations, we are starting to do all of our information gathering. We're getting contact information. We're also getting information for any of the properties that would be part of the mitigation and monitoring program, and just getting our database so that we can really ensure that we do a good job of keeping everyone that's going to be involved with the project activities informed in advance of anything and everything going on related to the project. And I think that was my last slide. And I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who would like to comment? There are no hands raised. Councilmember Foley.
Thank you. I really appreciate this presentation, but I have some questions for you regarding outreach and our disability community. I saw your renderings of the station designs, and I'm wondering how much outreach you have done to members of the disability community for number one, access, but also signage and other details that would be very important to prohibiting or limiting their access. So can you give me an idea to what extent you reached out to them?
I would be happy to. We have worked with, and I just recently presented to the Bart has their accessibility task force, and VTA has its committee for transit accessibility, and the communications external affairs team have worked with both of those committees and done presentations. So we have shared the basic station layouts on a higher level, just letting them know that in the BART facility standards that we're required to meet, we're meeting all of the accessibility requirements. But then as we engage further and get into some of the more nuanced designs, we also, like on phase one, we do an accessibility like audit and review, and they'll do like analysis of the plans to make sure, like the TVMs, like they're easy to read from a wheelchair, right? Like making sure that the doors on the restrooms are the right widths. I mean, they go through every detail and they do an audit with the designs to ensure that they meet all the accessibility requirements. So we are working closely with both of those groups, both at VTA and BART.
So are those are professional organizations you're meeting with, or those are
no,
who
those are
users?
Those are actual users. So VTA, they have their committee for transit accessibility, and it's a group of members of the public and some agency representatives that work with the disabled community. We work with that committee, so it's a volunteer committee, and the same thing with the BART committee for transit accessibility as well. They're individuals that represent the disabled community, and they provide input and feedback.
Okay, I'm very happy to hear that. When I looked at the renderings, it appeared that it was very easily walkable, but from the pictures that you showed us, it was very difficult to see that any consideration was given to those who had mobility issues. But so I'm glad that's why I asked the question, because I wanted to make sure that was.
No, thank you.
And we're spending billions of dollars on this project. Yes. It should be accessible to those folks who actually will benefit from using it. And that's predominantly our seniors and members of the disability community. I have another question regarding that, and that has to do with the stages of construction and the Ctmp plan. During that time, mobility and accessibility will be limited. So how will we be, or how will you be reaching out to the community to make sure that they still have accessibility during the construction phases?
So that's what, so part of the environmental process and clearance and analysis, it identifies the impacts, right? And then we have to get the project environmentally cleared, we have to implement mitigations, right? So in those mitigations, that's what guides the guiding principles that we've given to the contractor. Like there might be a directive like you have to maintain so many lanes of through traffic, or you have to maintain a 12-foot sidewalk or like a bike path, like at the Diridon station. There are specifics about the access to Diridon and what we have to make available for pedestrians and autos. So once we take those rules, like I said, all of those commitments and the mitigations, then we take that, and that's where we come to the community and to the cities and our partners of how would you like us to achieve this, right? There are sometimes several ways to achieve how you might approach that mobility. And that's where we get the weigh-in is with those options. How would you like us to proceed? Which way do you prefer? Do you prefer us, like I said, doing these 2 lanes, or would you prefer us closing this lane? Or do you prefer us to do a detour of a bike path over here, or do you prefer it over here? So that is how we work with on the Ctmp, and then provide those options to ensure that we're mitigating those impacts.
Thank you. So as you're looking at the Ctmp plan and looking at possibly shutting down roads or moving bike lanes, I hope you will consider that pedestrians need to be considered in a much bigger way than our automobiles, because this is really about creating taking people out of their automobiles and getting into mass transit, and we need to make it safe and accessible to them. So as we're squeezing the streets, as construction is occurring, we need to make sure that we're not squeezing our bike lanes away or our pedestrian walkways so that people can bike and roll, as you said. So thank you for your response to that and to your presentation. I'll look forward to this as we move along. Chair, do you need a motion to accept the report?
Yes.
If so, then I will move it.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Cohen.
Just a couple quick questions. So the station by Diridon, you said something about east and west entrance. So it'll be open on both sides, either coming in from the western side by all the Google Village, or the eastern side coming in from Diridon directly?
So yes, there'll be entrances facing both Cahill Street, which will be facing the future intermodal station, and we're working with our partners on ensuring that there's a good connection. Right now, there's a street plaza, but as part of this 90-day period, we're going to be looking at possibilities, how we might augment that future connection over to the intermodal station, which will be to the west. And then the east entrance is everyone coming basically from further, downtown San Jose area.
Right, okay. And then I saw your construction impact zones in red. Some of them go across streets, or in fact, one went across the train tracks. Do those necessarily mean that roads will be closed during construction, or is that just a general?
Cahill Street at Diridon will be, but there are very few streets that's going to be closed for our construction and just the general construction in the area. But there are very few streets that will be closed as part of the project construction.
So even the part of the map that showed Market Street inside the red over by the downtown station, that doesn't mean Market Street necessarily will be closed to
that's just the edge of Market Street. It's really VTA purchased the VTA block there between Market and First Santa Clara, and I think it's St. John behind. So we'll have the whole block, but we won't be closing off the streets. There might be some work, where there might be some lane closures when we're doing some of the sidewalks and improvements, but we will be not closing those streets. And important to note that we're going to be doing everything we can. And one of the primary considerations in the delivery of this project was to really mitigate the street level impacts, looking at how critical the transit system was on Santa Clara Street and the mobility going through downtown San Jose. So the entire premise of this single bore delivery method was to really reduce those impacts. to both mobility and to the businesses in downtown San Jose.
Appreciate that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you for the report as well. And I just want to highlight one thing you said. I'm glad that you are taking another look at the Diridon station and the entrance there at the Bart station. And I would just like to, I know I've said this many times publicly before. I think it's really important for that entrance to be integrated, not just augmented, but integrated with the rest of Diridon Station. I still think having a plaza is not acceptable for the billions of dollars that we're spending. And it absolutely needs to be a completely integrated station. And even if we don't have the full answer on what that station is going to look like, we have to do as much work as we can to ensure that whatever happens with the Bart station can be integrated with the rest of the Diridon station once it is completed and expanded. And I'm just going to keep saying it over and over and over. I think that's a really important piece. We can't be spending billions of taxpayer dollars and then frankly making them walk across a plaza. Like it just doesn't make sense when we're talking about a Diridon integrated station concept. So I know that's not all on you, but I think it's really important to continue to work every angle you can to ensure that the entrances are not augmented, but the entrances are integrated.
And we are, we are conveying all of this to the CP2 contractor. And looking at right now, as I said, they're looking at innovations and what they can do. We're raising certain things, and passenger experience has definitely been raised to the top of the list. Good. So it will be a period of exploration on what they can do to maybe achieve some of these requests that we are definitely raising up to them.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And then I just want to ask about, I am an alternate on VTA, but because everything's happening on Zoom, I haven't had the opportunity to sit in for anybody recently. And so I'm not sure how the peer review is going on this single versus twin bore independent study. And I'm wondering if the economic impact of the twin bore on downtown San Jose is included as part of that study.
Yeah, they're trying to keep the study very separate from the project, so it has every appearance of being independent. But I know that everything financial, right? The impacts, the cost of delay, right? Like there were some assumptions that the twin bore project was at 65% design level, and it was and more advanced way back in 2008, but it would have to be redesigned. So just to do anything with that twin bore project, a side note of any of the other costs related to it, you're talking about significant delay, which equates to a significant amount of money. So all of that will be analyzed, like starting with a clean slate, like where we are exactly today, what it would cost to deliver that, what the impacts would be, what the benefits would be, what the detriments would be. So that is the idea in that comparison.
But my question is, are they going to do that sort of globally or just related to project costs? Because we have the reason that we made the single bore decision was really about a more global look at the economic impact of construction.
Yeah, I can check for sure that is an item that's specifically called out for review. I think that they will analyze impacts. So that could be equated. I don't know how deep down they'll dig into that, but they would definitely have to analyze environmental impacts, which would be those types of impacts to businesses and street closures. So that would definitely have to be included because that was a significant consideration in the initial, like I stated, delivery strategy.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then my last question is about the CTMP. If you could go back to slide 19, I just want to make sure I understand the process.
Sure. Thanks, Jess.
Other way, Jess.
Sorry, I was moving forward and then wrong. So let me,
I think it's the next slide.
there we go.
I think it was 19. Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
So the sort of the step one, I think we're on sort of either step one or step two, but it sounded like we were still on step one with the coordination meetings and then kind of drafting a contract specific CTMP. But my question is, there are some major players in the downtown area. I would say the Downtown Association, Google, as well as Shark Sports and Entertainment, and having them be in the stakeholder engagement after a draft is already completed seems like we'd have to go through too many iterations. It seems like it makes more sense to bring them in earlier in the process. So I'm a little bit, I guess I want to know a little bit more about where we
Sure.
are in the process and where we bring in our major players who have a very large stake in that.
Yeah, and I didn't mention, but we're in ongoing meetings with both the Sharks, SAP, and with Google. So those meetings and coordination have been occurring all along. We've been getting input and feedback. So once we get, like I stated, that we laid sort of the requirements, right, based on what we can do environmentally to the contractor. And then once they identify how they plan to deliver this project, like we couldn't put out anything too soon because we don't know exactly their means and methods, right? What the contractor will do. So once we have those means and methods and we can start looking at how we will implement a construction transportation management plan, that's when we'll reach back out to all the stakeholders and get their input. I mean, it's a draft insofar that it just has basically the requirements, right? There are certain requirements. That's what the draft includes at this point. It doesn't include the specifics yet. So that's what we will work on with all of our stakeholders.
Okay, thank you.
It basically says the things you can't do in a sense, right? Like you have to adhere to this rule, you can't do this. So they could bid on something knowing all their constraints. That was really the purpose to have the CTMP in the contract bid documents, because they had to understand that there were going to be constraints, which is associated with some cost to them, right? So that's what we had to give them for the bidding process. And then once they bid on that and know those constraints that they have to work with, then we define the details of that.
So for example, with one of those constraints, not closing lanes during, 5 to 7 p.m. on event days, or, I mean, was that in there?
I mean, we've had those discussions. I mean, overall, and it was like what lanes you absolutely can't close at all. And then that will be something that we work on. Like we have talked about the exact hours of when we wouldn't have anything closed and when we would not be doing even construction activities, right? I mean, it goes beyond just lane. It's like, what are the hours of construction we can do so that it's not interrupting.
So was that included in the RFP?
That was not, we included
because
that
those are
there
constraints
would be,
that you were talking about, people would need to know to bid.
right. They knew that there would be constraints. They didn't know exactly what the times would be, right? We said that there would be hours that they couldn't work every day, 9 to 5, that there would be times when they had to work around other schedules. So those are the types of things that were included in their bid documents.
Okay. All right.
Just like the city's work hours, right? There's limits. They, if they can do 1 or 2 shifts or 3 shifts, and then we'll have to, as part of the permitting process, get those approvals too.
Okay, thank you. Jess, did you want to add something?
Well, I think Bernice said it well. I think just to be very clear, there was not something like, on game days, you have to be done 2 to 3 hours ahead of time. And that has certainly been something that we've talked to the VTA team and Shark Sports and Entertainment about, that desire. And what Bernice shared about the contractor coming on board, right, just was enacted at VTA very recently. Documents are being signed. These innovations, right, we don't yet understand the full scope of those innovations. We don't therefore understand what the potential impact might be on means and methods of construction. Once we have started to unpack those types of things, like the means and methods of construction with the changes potentially in the tunnel or the construction staging area, all those things that Bernice went through, that's when we can say, what would the impact be of a 2 to 3 hour moratorium before games? Or what would the impact be if this, that, and the other? But without, in isolation, without that information, you know, we've tried to be very clear that we understand the desire, and we need to be able to understand both the desire and the impacts together to solidify the CTMPs.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Do any of my colleagues have other questions or comments? Seeing none, I think we're ready for the vote.
Foley,
Aye.
Morales,
Yes.
Esparza, Cohen,
Aye.
Davis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, we will go to item
Thank you.
D4, Climate Smart San Jose, Carbon Neutral San Jose by 2030 Acceleration Strategy. Carrie?
Thank you. Today I'm joined by Lori Mitchell, Director of Community Energy, and Julie Benavente, Deputy Director with ESD, and Ramses Maddow, Division Manager for Department of Transportation. Next slide. So as you may recall, our Climate Smart Plan was adopted in 2018. And that plan really set a path for us to achieve the Paris Climate Accords and in general move towards carbon neutrality by a 2050 timeline. Council direction last November was to expedite that, you know, given the change in the global climate and our increased heat days, increased storms, et cetera. You know, San Jose's desire to do our part and to lead rather than follow. So you unanimously approved us moving towards carbon neutrality, and then, you know, rightfully said, hey, why don't you come back and tell us how we're going to do that? If you look, and that's what we're here to do today, if you look at the chart on this slide, you can see that our community greenhouse gas inventories are trending in the right direction. So we're trending down, but we're not trending down fast enough at our current on our current trajectory to meet carbon neutrality by 2030. So, but you know, with the carbon pathway, what we're trying to do is to stay true to our Good Life 2.0 mantra and sort of touchstone in Climate Smart San Jose. So we want to make sure that we're both improving the environment and improving the lives and lifestyles of our community along the way. So they should be moving together. If we go to the next slide. We thought one of the best ways to communicate and to really ensure that there was clarity on how we were going to do this was to establish a vision. So our vision is that San Jose will become a better, stronger, and more resilient community by accelerating our climate action and moving towards carbon neutrality by 2030. And we'll do that by engaging our community through the planning process and making all of the voices heard. So with that, you know, what we're bringing forward today is a framework and a strategy of how we're going to move in concert with our community to get to the finer details of the particular plan. So, so we recognize that we need to do more engagement, and that this document is kind of a living document. It's something that's going to continue to evolve over time. And we think we have a good idea what we need to do in the next 1 to 2 years, but we're also flexible and adaptable enough to know that that may change over time. And, you know, through this process, we heard, as I'm sure many council members did, from our community, whether it was through building electrification or changing our transportation approaches, that they wanted all of their voices to be heard. And so we want to ensure that we're hitting all of the community, and really that all of our community sees themselves and their family somewhere in the document. And so so we know that more work needs to be done, but we strongly believe if we move forward on the path that we're bringing forward today, we're going to bring the community along with us. We're going to learn together. We're going to move together, and we're going to hit these objectives by 2030. But it's gonna take a lot of work. Next slide. So 85% of our community-wide emissions are from two areas, from transportations and buildings. And so those are the two biggest buckets for us to focus on. There certainly are smaller buckets like solid waste or some fugitive emissions, but we're really not focused on those. We're focused on kind of getting the biggest bang for our buck, but also being able to work with our community on fewer tasks so that we can have a bigger impact, and that we're not sort of confusing the public with too many varieties of how to get to carbon neutrality. So bigger buckets with lots of options inside of them. And so with that, I'll hand it over to Julie to talk more specifically about our strategies, but really want you to hear our thoughts and ideas in the spirit of we're doing this in partnership with the community, and that San Jose will be a better place for having moved along this path together.
Thank you, Carrie. So from the three focus areas that Carrie had mentioned, city staff had identified 4 acceleration strategies that are listed on this slide. These are not new to us. These are our climate smart strategies, but these are the areas where we do need to focus in order to make a quicker acceleration. So those are to move to zero emission vehicles, reduce the miles we travel in our vehicles by at least 20%, switch our appliances from fossil fuel to electric, and power our community with 100% carbon neutral electricity. And so, yes, these are the areas that we would need to focus on in order to accelerate. I'm going to go ahead and pass off to Ramses for the next 2 slides.
Thank you, Julie and Carrie. Ramses Madhu, Division Manager of Planning Policy and Sustainability in DOT. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about 2 of the strategies in transportation. The first is moving to zero emission vehicles. We're seeing a lot of movement in the market, a lot of movement within mobility to move to get folks in electric vehicles. And it's also the shortest, the fastest way to reduce emissions, right? Is to change the fleet of vehicles versus changing the overall design of the transportation system. We looked at what level of change would really be needed to meet this goal. And it would mean that we would need to reach a 90% of all vehicles in San Jose being electric by 2030. This is so we're really focusing there on passenger vehicles and trucks and commercial vehicles, which account for roughly 90% of the on-road transportation emissions. This means we need significantly to accelerate the pace of electric vehicle adoption, as well as build out of electric vehicle infrastructure. Currently, we have, where's the stat there? We have about, oh, so sorry, I should know off the top of my head. We have about 1,800 EV chargers within the city. To get to being able to support all of these vehicles, we would need over 62,000 chargers to make this work. It's a lot of work ahead of us, but we believe that this is the most viable way to drive our EV adoption and emissions reductions. And as was brought up earlier by Councilmember Cohen, other pieces that we're looking at are education programs, as well as policies to help us drive more adoption and better spread of EV adoption and electric vehicle infrastructure. Next slide, please. While much of the emissions from the transportation sector would be driven by adoption of electric vehicles, we can't lose sight of the overall longer-term goal of reducing vehicle miles traveled. We still want to keep on pace with our goal of reducing vehicle miles traveled by 20% by 2030. And we really know that this is, how do you say, This takes longer, but pays huge dividends, as we just learned about from the Bart project. It takes a long time to get some of these big infrastructure pieces through, but once they're in, they recreate the bones of our city and become part of our bigger pathway. So the plans we were talking about earlier in this session, as well as things like the Bart project, are really going to get us there. That'll pass it back to Julie.
Thank you. So for the electrification of existing building strategy, the acceleration strategy, the data shows us that our primary focus should be on electrifying space and water heating equipment in residential buildings. And that's because those two appliances make up 90% of the residential emissions from natural gas. So it makes a lot of sense to really focus on those two appliances. There are also a lot of existing programs and incentives that can help support building energy efficiency and electrification. And we still need to do more to provide further assistance to low-income communities. We should also keep in mind that rooftop solar and the replacement of these appliances at the end of life can significantly improve the economics of home electrification. And the data has informed us in the initial supporting actions that were identified in the pathway that's attached to the memo. Those include identifying streamlining of a building electrification implementation and ensuring equitable support for our community. And those are incorporated into the supporting actions for this strategy. On the fourth acceleration strategy, which is to move to 100% carbon neutral electricity, San Jose Clean Energy already offers a very low carbon-based power product and continues to grow significantly its renewable content. So maintaining San Jose Clean Energy's current customer base and seeking to build more direct access or industrial customers, including them in San Jose's service, can support San Jose's carbon neutral by 2030 goals. It'll also be important to monitor customer enrollment in the green value power option to evaluate its impact on carbon neutrality goals, as it provides a lower cost option, but also provides a lower carbon neutral power content to our customers. And finally, we thought it was very important to lead by example as we work towards carbon neutrality. So while municipal operations are minor contributors to the community-wide greenhouse gas emissions, they are under the city's direct control. And our municipal greenhouse gas inventories tell us that we should focus on employee commutes and our own municipal building emissions if we want to progress significantly on our carbon neutrality goals. Within the municipal buildings, the airport is a significant portion of emissions, and of that portion from the airport, nearly all of their natural gas emissions come from their central utility plant usage. And that plant is nearing an end of life within the next couple of years. So it's a good place to focus in terms of making it a significant step there. The city's buildings are also able to move to 100% renewable electricity quickly through San Jose Clean Energy service option. And so we have identified also supporting actions within the municipal sector that addresses some of these data pieces that the data takeaways that we've seen. And so those include working further towards all electric existing buildings for municipal buildings, addressing employee commutes through transportation demand management programs and the city's fleet, and also moving to carbon neutral electricity across our municipal buildings. So we wanted to make sure that there's definitely an understanding of the scale of the effort that is required to meet our carbon neutrality goals. As we mentioned a little bit in the through this presentation, but for the 90% EV goal, that is reaching 83,000 passenger EVs per year, and also 7,500 public EV chargers per year in order to accommodate and address, to support those EVs in our community. On the VNT goal, this is based on population and job growth assumptions in the climate smart model. And the 20% VMT goal, while it requires 2% reduction in VMT per service population per year in order to reach the 20% total, by the 2030 year goal. And that is actually in line with how we have been progressing pre-COVID in terms of our reductions. But we also know that, as Ramsey's mentioned, VMT requires time and it requires a lot of infrastructure. So making changes in how people travel, you know, is still quite a big lift in order to meet those goals. And then on the carbon neutral power goal of 100%, we know that it would require approximately 650 megawatts of renewables, as well as around 300 megawatts of storage and 200 megawatts of hybrid and/or green gas to be able to meet these carbon neutral goals by the 2030 date. On the building side, for 100% electrified buildings, that would be approximately 43,000 homes per year that go all electric, as well as 9.7 million square feet of commercial space. So quite significant jumps in all of these areas, which is what we'll be working towards. And we know that we also have a lot of supporting resources, you know, both that we can build upon, some that are existing, and also that there's a lot of unprecedented funding support that we know is coming down and has been coming down, which we'll be seeking out, and that can help us propel the community forward. So again, those include existing programs and incentives that are already there that we can leverage to be able to support our community, as well as developing new public and private partnerships. For example, we recently released an RFP for an electrification upgrade accelerator implementer. So that will help us move forward with further electrification and supporting our community in a more streamlined manner. There's also, as I mentioned, a lot of federal and state funding to initiate and scale programs that we will be seeking out as it comes down the line. And also San Jose Clean Energy has funding for programs that's anticipated to start in fiscal year 24-25. And Carrie, did you want to take next steps?
Sorry, apparently UPS showed up and my dog wanted to greet them. So you know, our next step is to really, again, refine the strategies, figure out where we're going to get external funding and partnerships, and, you know, are things we've been hearing in the market true or not? But, you know, we're committed to moving this forward, and, you know, whether we get there by 2030 or 2035, we really think we can get there. And we think it's going to result again in a better community, and certainly a better environment. And with that, the team's available for questions.
Thank you, Carrie and Julie. And Ramses, we're gonna go to the public first. There are multiple commenters.
Dashiell Leeds.
Hello, my name is Dashiell Leeds. I'm the conservation organizer for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. We're in strong support of the Climate Smart update and the updated 2030 target. We think staff has done a great job here. There are a lot of awesome measures that we're looking forward to. So we do hope the committee tonight recommends that the full council adopt the plan on June 14th. Thanks so much.
Giovanni.
Hi. Yeah, I just, as a middle-class member of the community of San Jose, I'm just wondering, like, what expenses this plan to us? Like, the current administration, like, of the country right now is already, like, trying to eliminate fracking and fossil fuels, and it's been catastrophic to us. It's not even, like, proven to do anything, like, good to help us save any money in any way. So I'm just wondering, how much is this, like, how much? Okay, so, like, let me try to, like, get my words correct so I don't just, like, word vomit. I'm just wondering, is 100% electricity even safe? What about blackouts? What about when we build these windmills? What about all the wildlife that we're going to affect, like, that uses these trees for shelters? Because we have to build somewhere, right? So what about the birds that die from these windmills? Is that really going to be helping the planet? And I'm just wondering where I'm going to get the money for an electric car, because I can't even afford one. So, I mean, I'm not against climate. I mean, saving the climate or whatever, but like, at what expense is this going to be to us that can't afford this type of stuff? That's all I have.
Jill Borders.
Hi, thank you. This is Jill Borders, and I'm really happy to hear about this plan. I hear the caller before me, and I echo some of his concerns, but I also am really excited about the possibility. So thank you for all the work in the Environmental Services Department. I really feel like they do justice to the idea that we can do it. You know, we just have to push ourselves. And having said that, one thing that is heavy on my mind right now, as I prepare for a Planning Commission hearing on Wednesday evening at 6:30, is that there seems to be a disconnect, however, between our planning department and the staff there and our environmental services department and our general plan and our charter and everything else. And that is because, in my opinion, we are recommending, this planning staff is recommending, you know, a 4,400 square foot home to be built on a beautiful open space right now, where it's a critical wildlife linkage passage area. And they're advocating, or excuse me, the home is outside of the urban growth boundary, and it will need a propane tank on the hill. It's going to have a 4-car garage. It's going to need a 1,400 long driveway to get to Santa Teresa. And for me, for the planning staff to go ahead and say, yeah, you know, this is going to be okay, we're recommending this, this really bothers me, because there's a serious disconnect between what we're hearing we need to do, which is get away from fossil fuels, not put a propane tank on the hill, not have a 4-car garage, not have a 4,400 square foot home on a hillside. And what we're supposed to be doing is doing all the opposite things. And so if we could somehow connect with our planning department and get them on board with what the Environmental Services Department and our city charter is trying to do, it would mean a great deal to me to have the public have some trust in our government and what they're doing. So connect the dots.
Sandra Hayden.
I'm requesting extension and expansion of the San Jose Clean Air Program or similar. Under the current program, a clean air permit allows free parking whilst charging an EV at city-owned garages. The current program expires at the end of the month, according to the website. We need more charging with free parking to serve downtown residents who live in apartments and condos and downtown visitors. The REACH codes are for new construction only and don't address installing EV charging stations in existing buildings. Also, I want to point out, Teslas shouldn't be supercharged all the time. It's not good for the battery. So downtown residents can't rely on the Tesla supercharger network, even if they have a Tesla. Thanks.
Desiree?
Hi, this is Desiree Gran. Thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate all of your hard work, and I wholeheartedly support the Climate Smart update, and I hope you vote to present this to council. Thank you.
A.R. Bancroft.
Hi there. Yeah, my name's Amanda Bancroft. I'm a climate activist here in San Jose, and I just wanted to voice my support for the Climate Smart Plan of San Jose and their goal of carbon neutrality by 2030. And I also really wanted to emphasize, bringing the whole community in on this plan and ensuring that rebates and incentives are in place for the community. So thank you for hearing me out, and I hope you vote yes on June 14th. Thank you.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to the entire team for the work to bring this forward and the details and the reports that were attached. It's impressive work, and I'm excited to see us get moving on it. I'll have a lot more to say next week, but I just wanted to say a few things, ask a few questions this week. First of all, as far as the electrification, I know there's been some concerns in the public about this question of forced transition. it's important for us to be describing this correctly. We're as a city, our role is to facilitate the transition that's inevitable and that's happening anyway. And I think we ought to be making sure that the language in the report reflects that. And I think it does that now. State and the Bay Area Air Quality Management District are going to require that new appliances are electric by 2029 or 2030. So our role as a city is to make sure people have the training and resources and preparation so that when that happens and their appliances fail, they'll be ready for that transition, and that we help direct them towards the right grants and resources and incentives to do that. So that's my comment. On slide 11, I don't know if you want to put that up or not, but it's an impressive number once you actually see the scale of the effort that we need. And while I'm excited about getting there, I know that there's a lot of challenges to get there. I'm excited, happy to hear your optimism that we can do this. I think the top right and bottom left, I think we're on target for those. The ones on the top left and bottom right are a little bit harder. I want to ask about the one on the top right. The 90% EV target means that 90% of new vehicle purchases would be EVs. Is that correct?
The total registered vehicles. So it's fleet turnover.
Total registered vehicles. Do we think there's enough turnover? I mean, we don't want people necessarily retiring a car that's useful, right? We want it to be done as people are buying new vehicles, I assume. So are we expecting that 90% turnover to be able to get us to that point by 2030?
So council member, some of this is just sort of how we get to targets, and we're certainly registered vehicles is a bit of broad topic, right? We're not asking people to give away their classic cars that they appreciate, or certainly not to not register them. It's really telling us that 90% of the vehicles on the road that are driven most often need to be EVs based on what we know today. And so as you've brought up in the past, by 2035, the state's already saying vehicles sold need to be electric. So our task is to ensure there's adequate charging and to facilitate people making that choice when they buy a car. But similar to how we're approaching building electrification, we're not going to confiscate somebody's car or tell them they can't drive it in San Jose. That's not the path we're going on. We're saying when you need to make a change, we'd like you to choose electric. And certainly people don't buy cars necessarily always when their car is worn out. And so, how do we make it more interesting and easy for them?
And how do we make sure people understand that it's actually cheaper to own an EV than to own a gas vehicle? And especially given that, cost of gas is not necessarily going to go up from where it is now, but it's not going to be cheaper than it was 5 years ago.
Yeah. And Lori actually has some really good information on kind of the affordability of some EVs on the used market. So Lori, I don't know if you want to share anything around that.
Sure. No, it's a really good question, and important to understand that there's so many more options today than, may have been in years past. And so we put together some information on our website, happy to share it with you, council member, but their used EVs, after incentives could be as low as, 5,000 to 7,000, which doesn't mean that's still not challenging for a lot of people. So another effort we're really working on is connecting residents with financing, particularly targeted at low income applicants that might be interested in those types of vehicles.
And people have a misperception that EVs mean some kind of luxury new vehicle when that's not the case. And actually, as you said, by 2025, it won't be that hard to find them. There'll be most companies will have almost all of their fleet that they're making be electric vehicles by then. So they'll be much more prevalent. I guess my point on this issue is just to be clear that we're not suggesting that we're asking people to retire their vehicles, but we should have a target of whether it's 100% or 90 above 90% of all new vehicles purchased by San Jose residents, or should be EVs by that date. That's going to help us get to that goal. So on the charger question, I think I heard Ramsey say we have 1,800 chargers in the city right now.
Publicly available. That's right.
Right.
65,000. So
I just am kind of struck by the idea that we have to put in 7,500 per year when our total is 1,800. So I look forward to seeing the plans for that coming forward and how we're going to achieve that goal. I know it's needed, but we're just going to have to.
Councilmember, I think you've heard me say this before. I have to do an inventory of how many gas pumps we have, because that's really the trade-out we're looking at, right? Replacing gas dispensing pumps with an EV charger, and so looking at the how realistic that could be.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you. On the building electrified question, obviously that's also a big number. We'll have a lot more to talk about on that next week. I'll move on from that, except to say that I saw in the report something not just about the electrification of appliances, but some element about building retrofitting of existing buildings. I guess that's in terms of energy efficiency, not just about appliances. Are we still looking into whether we're going to do work to try to improve efficiency and more than just change appliances?
Yeah, Lori, I know you have pretty strong feelings about building efficiency. You want to take that one?
Yeah, I would say that's always the first place to start, is to really make sure things are efficient. And then again, so we have many programs focused on that, as has ESD over the years. So I think that's still going to be very important. But again, as appliances are being switched out, and as particularly heating and water heaters get to the end of their useful life, it's really important that we make the switch to being having those appliances being electric.
Right, having this be electric, but also making sure that we're using the energy in the most efficient way possible.
Right.
So there were two elements in there that I think I saw that there was some question about direction from council about whether to continue pursuing. One is the question about roof space design, and the other is carbon cost of construction. Are you looking next week for direction from council about whether those should still be priorities, or are those necessarily part of the plan already?
We're looking at moving the biggest buckets forward, and then we're trying to say in the memos we're still exploring some of the other things that would require effort, but we don't want to dilute our efforts either. So we want to make sure we're moving in the right direction. But as Rams has said, in terms of electrifying the vehicles fleet, we don't want to miss out on switching people to biking either. So everything is not this or that. It's a blend of everything. But I don't think we're looking for direction. Julie, is there anything that you want to add to that one?
I was just going to mention that in the plan itself. So in the supporting actions, we do actually say that, as Carrie mentioned, we'll be exploring those further as part of the REACH code, as well as the policy evaluation that council already provided direction on. So those can be explored. We didn't list it as a priority. So if there's some other direction around that, but I think, as Carrie mentioned too, that just trying to stay focused on the items that really do have the biggest impact.
And the only yes and I would ask, this is Kip Harkness, Deputy City Manager, is that we are also kind of load balancing within the context of your direction around resilience overall. And so part of what we have the opportunity to do now is what are those biggest least effort, biggest impact around reducing our carbon footprint and fighting climate directly, and what are those least effort, biggest impact in terms of dealing with the fact that there is going to be climate change at this point, no matter how efficient and effective we are as an individual city. And so we have to load balance between those two, and make sure that the team is split between them. So part of the work that we'll be doing within the overall priority is the prioritization that Julie and Carrie were talking about, and how does that fit into our water infrastructure, our energy infrastructure as it is in terms of resilience as well. So you'll see a lot of this conversation, I think, over the next year or so, and trying to come back to you, and including using this committee as a sounding board for some of the deeper policy conversations.
And then we'll wait for some of the larger global efforts on carbon sequestration and actually carbon reduction, so that eventually we can dig ourselves out of the hole we're in. But that won't necessarily be a San Jose effort. I learned last week that just a 0.5 degree increase in temperature will completely change the character, if not kill a lot of the coral reefs in the equatorial regions. And so these are major major issues for our entire planet. On the carbon cost of construction, I just think that's exciting to think about, and obviously, you know, I've seen in cities this it's not just about the cost of construction, but about reuse and not necessarily and preservation of what exists and building on top rather than necessarily tearing down and building from scratch. I've seen great examples of buildings, modern buildings built on the top of a structure of an old, you know, century-old base without having to tear down completely and start over. And so a lot of these things I think are going to, and I think you know this, you plan this too, are going to deal with how we bring forward suggestions for changing our planning codes so that in the future we have requirements for how construction will occur. So can you speak for a second about what the plan is for working with PBCE as far as bringing back code changes over the years ahead?
You know, we got to this point by working collaboratively with almost every department in the city. And in terms of how we're working on future REACH code, we work really kind of in sync with PBCE on that. We haven't broached this particular point with PBCE, but as one of the callers said, we do need to look across the organization and sync up our policies to make sure that that we are looking at the broader picture in everything that we do. And so we have more work to do in that area, but it is our intent that that every part of the organization, as they're making decisions, would be thinking, what is the carbon impact of that, and can we do better? Not just thinking, oh, well, we always knock down the building and then build something, as an example.
Thank you. And I hope that in 10 years, that UPS truck that came to your house will be electric.
Yeah.
All right, I want to move the report and move it so that we can consider it at council next week.
Second.
Councilmember Foley.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. It's very exciting to see this come forward. I just have a comment actually, and first I commend you on the vision statement that you have, but I'd like to change one word, or have you consider changing one word. And that is, can you pull up the vision statement so we can all take a look at it?
Julie is the owner of the slides and had a computer malfunction.
I'm sorry.
I can't pull them up. Julie.
I got it. I'll share it. I was the backup for that.
Thanks, Ramsey.
You got it? If not, I can read it. You ready?
Ready.
San Jose will become a better, stronger, and more resilient community by accelerating climate action and moving to carbon neutrality by 2030. To me, a vision statement should be much stronger than that. And instead of moving, I'd like to replace that with achieving. Because if we just continually attempt to move, we're actually not saying we're going to achieve it. And the motion that we made last year was that we're going to achieve carbon neutrality. Now that may be impossible, or it may be very difficult, but if we throw it out there as our vision statement, it shows we are serious about this. If we change the word from, thank you, from moving to achieving. So if the maker of the motion would allow, I'd like to change that to a friendly amendment to change the word achieving. And whoever just made that change, thank you.
Love it. Thanks. I'll accept it.
Thank you. I appreciate that, but I also appreciate that you came up with a vision statement as your guiding principle. I think that's really important and will help focus the work. This is really, really important work that we must achieve. If we don't achieve it, we're in crisis mode for our children and our children's children and the life of this planet. So we have to make it, and it's going to be painful to get there. The one area of concern to me, well, there's a lot of areas of concern, but Councilmember Cohen mentioned it several times about the EV chargers. So I just want to drill down on this number a little bit more. We have 1,800 publicly available EV chargers. That, Ramses, that's what, okay. We need 62,000 publicly available or total. So what is what's the availability of all the EV chargers at our businesses, at our schools, at other places that have chargers? Do we have that number? And how I know it's not 62,000, but it's also not 1,800. So how much closer are we? Do we have, I think that number would be really helpful to know next week, because it's not just what we can do to install EV chargers, it's what our community can do to install EV chargers. And encouraging, I see school districts with EV chargers, I see businesses installing them, and it's all because it's good for their businesses, for their employees and their customers to have access to that capabilities. I'm more concerned about access for EV, for electric vehicles, for the whole community. EVs, they are cheaper to operate. I drive an EV. I get to drive by a gas station and wave at it and say, thank you very much, but I don't have to go in there. I also don't have to pay for any fluids or any other type of maintenance. Additionally, the noisy Maserati that drives around my neighborhood with a quiet EV, you don't hear that. So it improves our quality of life in many, many ways. But I live in a single family home and I have accessibility to charging my car, and it makes it much easier for me. But a lot of people in this community who we are trying to encourage to get access to EV vehicles or purchase EV vehicles do not have access to charging. They live in multifamily homes. Maybe they live in a single family home, but there's a lot of people who live there and they may not be able to charge up their vehicle. So that to me is the number one obstacle. What steps or how are you addressing those efforts to not just educate people that EVs are a good source of a good alternative for a fossil fuel vehicle, but allowing encouraging construction of charging stations or access to charging stations. So how do we address that? Because that's the big elephant in the room, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember. Fantastic questions.
Go ahead, Carrie. Let Carrie start on that, and then we'll go over the answers.
So, Councilmember, those are great questions, and those are questions we've been asking, we've been exploring, and we need more refinement, and that's what we want to do in partnership with the community, is refine that. We believe, we're confident the private sector will take up and occupy the profitable markets. So they'll fill that, and you're seeing that already. It's the markets where, you know, it's kind of a chicken and egg, where there's not enough EV vehicles, but there's not enough because there's no charging, right? So we need to figure out how we fill that void, and it won't be profitable though, right? So we'll have to get in there and start it, and then you know, make the investment, and then over time it'll be the use will clip up. But you know, Community Energy and DOT have been working to say, where are some public spaces that we could start to do that? And then how do we fund it? How do we help people then in those areas buy the vehicles? And how do we track usage, and how do we make it viable? So it's an answer we're confident we can solve. If we're willing to make the investment and willing to sort of set everything up for success, knowing that we might not see the returns on that investment for 10 years, 5 years, 6 years. Lori, Ramses, anything? You guys have been working hard at this. Anything to add?
Yeah, I'll say that kind of the prongs of the strategy so far, exactly what Carrie's saying. Find public places where we can be part of the solution and add, you know, at community centers, at libraries, at like that, add public charging. Another one is support legislation, particularly at state level, to get multifamily units charged, right? So that it's more like single family homes, where it's accessible for a certain amount of money. And then lastly is to start creating opportunities to use electric vehicles that are not necessarily owned. So we're spearheading right now the development of a shared electric car share system, where we're starting to try to find a way to get that done through grants and things like that. Right, so it's about getting it out there, making sure that it's actually getting built when it's outside of our control or for state law, and then using the public facilities that we do have to accelerate the effort.
Lori?
Yeah, I could.
It looks like you have something to say.
Yeah, no, I just very much agree with everything that's been said, and I actually think I'm very excited about this sector and where San Jose Clean Energy can play a role. Agree, we need more public charging stations, but also we need to not forget, even if you have a charger at home, we think public charging is still going to be important because we really want to make sure that a lot of that charging shows up in the middle of the day when the solar energy, which is going to become, the prominent clean energy source on the grid in California, can charge those vehicles. If it all shows up overnight, we're going to have a hard time decarbonizing our electricity supply. So we're working on some really exciting things. And I think where San Jose Clean Energy and utilities are going to play a really important role, and you'll see some innovative recommendations out of us, is really sending those pricing signals and those rate signals at these charging hubs to people so that we can incentivize the charging when we can make sure that that electricity supply is the cleanest. So really excited for the work that my team and across the city, will work on over the next year or so. I think it's a very needed and fun space to be in.
It's fun, interesting. Okay, I appreciate that, and it shows me that you're really thinking about all the areas that we might be able to expand the EV charging. But as you were talking, I was thinking about, is there any legislation or a proposal, either federal or state, for tax incentives to for-profit businesses who install charging stations, to give them an incentive to create public spaces for their charging stations and give them a tax write-off? Have anyone heard anything about that?
I'm only aware of tax write-offs to install them. I don't know of any then for that really interesting term you're making there, which is then to make them publicly accessible. So unfortunately, and I do follow the policy quite closely for DOT. I haven't seen that pop up yet. But one we can maybe add into some conversations that we're having.
Interesting how we might be able to forward that, and it's probably at the federal level that would have to occur, and maybe that can't be done because we have sort of a dysfunctional federal, well, Congress. I'll just say that. I'll throw out the Congress and put them all in the same bucket. With that, I really appreciate this report. I look forward to our discussion next week, and hopefully adopting the report, adopting your report next week at the city council meeting. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of members of the public there tomorrow, or next week. Thank you so much. This is really, really good work.
Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, just a quick question. Laura, you mentioned peak time charging during the day, and I'm just wondering, do we think that that's necessarily going to be true in 2030? Will there be more storage of energy, and that there'll be more of an even ability to use clean energy at night? It was an interesting thing for me because we've been told at home, charge only during certain hours late at night because that's the best rate time to do it. And you've just made me think. So I'm just wondering, given the improving storage capabilities, do we think that daytime is necessarily going to always be the right time to charge?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we're fairly confident that 10 years from now, that's certainly going to be an optimal time to charge. It's even an optimal time to charge now. And what I'm talking about is really that 10 to 2 period where a lot of our utility peak pricing demand response programs come in as that evening peak. And right now that is a very big challenge, right? The solar comes offline, and then essentially the natural gas plants have to ramp up to meet that evening load. And I do think you're right, over time, battery storage will mitigate that. But there's only so much that can do. And so I think it's a yes, and we always know there's going to be charging at night. There's going to be electrical load at night. That's always going to be there, and we're going to have to meet that need. But I think to the extent that we can get some of this new EV charging load charging in the middle of the day by putting chargers where people already are. Like, I think we have great opportunities at our libraries, at our parks, where, hey, if you're dropping off your kids, you can charge for a half hour and, you know, accomplish multiple things, and making it very convenient, I think, is where we have a lot of opportunity. I think we also have a lot of opportunity with just pricing. And so for fleet owners like Uber and Lyft, you know, pricing to show that, you know, that middle of the day is more attractive to them, to get them to plug in there. So there, I think there's just a lot of innovative, you know, rate structures and marketing that we can work on over the next few years.
Great. I'm glad we have a smart team in our city working on this. And I hope that all future storage won't just be lithium battery, but as we've talked about before, thermal storage, gravity storage, and other methods of storage as well are more likely to be coming online. Thank you.
Thank you. I know Councilmember Foley called this an exciting report. I got to tell you, seeing slide 11, to me, I would call this a sobering report. What I didn't hear in any of this, and I have to say I didn't read the entire 71 pages, but I did browse through it, and I didn't see anything about cost. So cost to the public, even for the city to lead by example. I know several of us council members, myself included, have already been part of Total Green, but what is the cost differential from what we're doing to what that would cost us to do that citywide? Do we have any? I guess I have real trouble saying I'm comfortable moving this forward and saying, yes, let's achieve this by 2030 without having any indication about what this is going to cost us.
Councilmember, thank you. You know, we strongly believe and it's foundational that to move this program forward, we have to get outside funding. So that's part of the RFP that we have on the street now, is to hire a third party to help bring in some of that outside money and then help homeowners transition. So in terms of the cost,
Carrie, do we have an estimate for the total cost though? Outside funding is not going to cover 100% of the cost.
Well, okay, so, but it depends on how you look at it. So when someone needs to buy a new furnace, there's already a cost to buying that furnace, as an example, right? So what we're looking to do is to shave the increment. So what's the cost difference between what you needed to buy and install versus what now we would like you to buy and install?
And to operate. Because for us, when we replaced our furnace, what was it, 2 years ago? 2 years ago, my husband's sitting here, sorry, listening.
Yep.
When we replaced our furnace 2 years ago, it wasn't the incremental cost of going all electric for the heat pump itself, because we actually did do a small furnace and a heat pump. It was the cost of going all electric to actually operate that over time did not make sense for our family. It was going to be way too expensive. So what are those like all of those costs? Where is that estimate?
And so, right. So, what we're seeing now is the cost of natural gas. The trajectory of that is very different. And we know that will increase at a rate. Well, it looks today like it will increase at a rate faster than the cost of electricity. So at this point, the cost of natural gas is, as Lori reminds me, about double what it was last year. So that cost is going up. But what we're suggesting in this document, in this framework, is that when we bring forward specific policies, that's when we would bring that amount of information forward to say, hey, look, here's the transition we want to make. Here's what the pricing forecasts look like. Because we need a little bit more information to understand all of those costs. But what we're not proposing is removing people's gas stoves, removing their gas fireplaces. We're not saying replace everything, but we are looking for efficiency measures. So if we believe that everyone should replace their furnace and everything in their home to electricity, right? So when they go to install, say, an EV charger at their home, we like to help educate them on maybe we should upgrade the whole of the electrical infrastructure for your home, so you don't have to do it 3 different times for 3 different pieces of appliance. But we do believe that if we stay true to our principles of the Good Life 2.0, that if we do this the right way, the cost will not result in significantly more to operate all electric appliances in the long run or at the time of policy implementation. We did, though, forecast the cost of the whole city going to total green, and it was not something that that sort of made the budget list of recommendations this year for exactly what you're talking about. It was cost, but we did move several departments. ESD is one of them that we did move to total green. And Lori or Ramses or Julie, do you have anything to add to the kind of really speaking to the money part?
Before anybody jumps in, Carrie, why weren't those things in your report?
I think they are in the report.
The cost of total green for the whole city?
Well, mostly because we really think that sort of the city slice of it, the leading by example slice, is not the biggest thing we can do from the community.
I agree, but that's the point, is we can't even afford to do that.
But we're not recommending everyone do it today either. That's what I'm saying. Is
Right,
we're not
but
recommending do it today.
But 2030 is 8 years from now. It's not even 8 full years from now. So I just want to be clear. The bottom line for everything that you just said is we don't know the costs. What you also said was we believe in the long run it will be cheaper. But I got to say, economists have a saying, and it's in the long run, we're all dead. So in the long run, that's great. But what we don't know is in the next 8 years, what is this likely to cost us to do this scale of effort required on this slide?
Thank you, Council Member. I'll try to answer a little bit if you want me to, Carrie.
Go ahead.
I think, can I just, I'll save you all the trouble. The bottom line is we don't know the costs, or if you know them, you didn't put them in the report. And the cost, the one little lead by example, the cost for the city to go total green is too expensive for us to do right now. And there's no plan even for us to do that for all of the departments. So I just want to be clear that we don't have that very, very critical information right now. And I think that's really important. And I honestly, I can't vote to move this forward without that kind of information. And I'm sure it's going to pass given what everybody else has said, but I'm not going to be able to vote for it because this is critical information. And I want to highlight one other thing that Kip said, which is we need to balance our climate smart with our resiliency. And we haven't talked about what the trade-offs for other pressing environmental needs are, like water recycling and purification. And where are we going to put our dollars when we have limited dollars, which is always going to be the case, not just for the city of San Jose, but everywhere. So I just want to highlight, I think this is great work, but I also think, honestly, this report is, tell me we're not going to be able to do this by 2030 without telling me we're not going to be able to do this by 2030. And that's what slide 11 is to me.
So, Councilmember, if I could just clarify. So if we had more information on sort of the financial implications, that would sort of fill what you're seeing as a void today. So, you know, let me work with the team and see what numbers we can come up with. I don't know that they'll fully satisfy you, but definitely appreciate, you know, the concerns and definitely concerns we've heard from the community as well. And that's where we're really trying to ensure that the community doesn't believe we're going to bring forward policies that don't make good financial sense. So, you know, our sort of strategy is that when we bring policies forward, we would have more complete information on the monetary components. But I can also appreciate that, you know, while climate smart in itself does have numbers in terms of the total cost that climate smart would require, the total investment, and it is admittedly a frightening number. When we revise and update climate smart, we would include those numbers again, and that is something that we're looking to do in the next year. But you know, we'll look to get more of that information. But appreciate the feedback.
Well, I will say that the net present value calculation of accelerating this work to 2030 also changes it and makes it more expensive, right? Because we have to spend the dollars sooner. So I hope that you will keep that in mind. And that's, again, why I have such reservations about this. I wanted to ask about the electric grid capacity. I didn't see anything about that. We're talking about space and water heating, which are very intensive electric uses. Do we have the capability? And in the next 8 years, again, I want to talk about, we're talking about by 2030. In the next 8 years, do we have the confidence that the grid could take that kind of capacity on a year-round basis, knowing that we have rolling blackouts as it is in the hottest days?
Thank you again. Great questions. And so, one of the reasons that we're bundling three sort of climate related items next week is so that those conversations can be had together, because that information is a part of the building electrification framework. But without having to wait 8 days, Julie or Lori, do you guys have anything to any perspective to add up to that?
Sure, council member. It's a really important question. And, one thing that will really improve electric reliability for the region is the California ISO, which runs the transmission grid in California, is proposing the construction of 2 new transmission lines to serve the region that will be constructed by 2027. So within this time period. And that's going to add significant capacity to the grid here in the South Bay. And so I think that's one of the reasons that does give us confidence that building electrification can happen within this time frame. And not only are they proposing additional transmission capacity here, but across the state. And as you know, San Jose Clean Energy has been working a lot on increasing our renewable supplies. We are also coming to council in the fall with recommendations on our integrated resource plan, which looks forward over the next 10 to 20 years on what type of supply we need to invest in to make sure that we can meet these goals and fully decarbonize. I think the piece that probably worries you and worries me the most is the distribution system and making sure those upgrades on the distribution system also happen. But there are several open proceedings at the Public Utilities Commission to address those issues because the state very much recognizes that electrification needs to occur in order for the state to meet our climate goals. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you. I appreciate that. And then, Lori, do you have an update, just because I know we have source issues? Do you have an update on Diablo and nuclear as a potential carbon neutral source going forward?
Sure. No, happy to talk about that. So that is also, some new developments just over the last few weeks. So Diablo Canyon is California's last nuclear power plant. It was in the process of being decommissioned and should have been complete in that process in 2024. But the governor has made announcements to extend the life of that plant for a few more years to keep it online, so that it just gives the state a little bit more time to construct the solar and the renewable energy supplies that are needed to replace that. Also this morning out of the Biden administration, some really good news. Part of the reason why some of the renewable capacity has been delayed is of course because of the pandemic, but also because of a tariff issue for solar panels that are imported into the state. And the Biden administration this morning clarified that there would be a 2-year moratorium on that. So that should accelerate construction of these renewable supplies and help us meet those reliability goals. So some good news there.
That is good news. Thank you. And I just want to, one very small thing I just want to point out, because I have a used EV, a 2015 Leaf, and there are two things I want to say about that in the conversation that didn't get raised. One is that the older the EV, yes, it is cheaper to purchase, but it also has a lower range, and so the option of using it on a regular basis or for for long commutes would not be possible unless you're able to charge at both ends. And then the other thing, charging at home, I have the ability to charge at City Hall, but charging at home, actually, we did the calculation, is much cheaper for us. So we end up charging overnight rather than charging just at City Hall because of the pricing. Even if I wait until it's a little bit cheaper, during the day, there's part of the time that it's more expensive and part of the time that it's cheaper. It's still cheaper for me to do it at home. So I know you're aware of that because you mentioned the issue, but I wanted to do the right thing. And so we got an EV, we got an older one because the range didn't matter for me to go, to City Hall and around my district. But charging at City Hall when there's daytime hours was what I wanted to do. And it ends up not being financially, it's feasible for me, but it doesn't make financial sense for me to do that. So I just wanted to point that out, like even at our own, accessibility is not the issue.
Yeah, it's such a good point, and something that I think, that's where San Jose Clean Energy and Utilities can play an important role in that retail pricing. Right now that's largely set by the private sector, and it's not always a function of the electric supply costs. It's also just, in part what kind of profit they can make on that investment. And so I think it's going to be really important. As I said, my team is leaning into this very aggressively to make sure that, we have pricing structures that work for people, that incentivize, that charging in the middle of the day and make it cost effective. So it's just the cheaper option, right? It's not, also the option that allows us to decarbonize faster. So it's going to be an important issue that we're going to have to stay on top of.
Yeah, thank you. Before I call on you, Councilmember Cohen, Councilmember Peralez, you had your hand up and down a couple of times, and I want to give you the opportunity to speak if you want to.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I was having some connectivity issues. Thank you. And I'll be brief. I know we're running out of time, and I can save most of my comments for when it comes to the full council. I did just want to say I appreciate the direct questions from our chair, because we should be really eyes wide open. And I recognize that that 2030 it's not necessarily around the corner, right? It is a little less than 8 years, but it is going to come sooner than we know it. And I think that we should have the full picture in front of us. And if we don't have that today, which it sounds like we don't, right, then we should have that as soon as possible. So then that way we truly can be honest with ourselves and everybody else. Hey, what is it going to take to achieve this carbon neutrality by 2030? And what's the costs, right? What are the trade-offs? And just being very clear with that similarly to the chair's example, even obviously our own, right? We know some of that where we can understand the trade-off and then be able to make those decisions. I think as we're looming closer to a deadline, it'll make the pressure, it'll put the pressure on, right, to actually make some of those decisions. And that's why I'm comfortable. You got a boo-boo too, buddy. Sorry, guys. And so it'll put the pressure on, and that's why I do support, right, this goal. It is at the moment aspirational, but we have to, and I'm comfortable with Councilmember Foley's amendment as well, because I do think we have to be pretty hardline on where we want to achieve and when we want to achieve this goal. And and I look forward to having any more clear picture as we move forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, thanks. And I know I come across overly passionate about this topic, but I think it's an important one. And I do appreciate your questions, and it's important for us to have the answers to those, but not just because we have to make this decision for ourselves as a city, but because it's better for us to be able to answer to our constituents as to what the true effect is, and make sure that if they have fears that we can allay those fears, right? That's important because we need consensus on this. And Councilmember Davis makes a good point. There is profit now in the charging that's out there in the public, but just like there's profit, and I would say price gouging in gasoline, we see prices that are way above what the costs are now, and I don't expect that any public entity is going to necessarily be as cheap as doing it at home. But it is frustrating to me as well with my EV that I feel like, well, there's no point in charging during the day. I might as well go home and charge because it's cheaper. I still know, though, that filling my car using electricity is cheaper than if I were driving a gas vehicle and going and filling it with gas. So either way, it's still a better deal in my opinion. I just like to reframe this sometimes though, because the cost of not doing this is far greater than the cost of doing it. And I think we've always in our economic and policymaking decisions left out the true cost of things when we talk about what something costs. Yes, this is a global problem, so it's hard for us to necessarily separate what are doing this. We're not necessarily going to prevent the effects of climate change by doing this just ourselves, but we can't always wait for others to go first. Somebody has to be taking the lead on this, and my expectation is that others will be following, and we'll be better prepared because we're doing this now when other cities are trying to catch up. The thing is, the state's going to require some of these things. By 2029, we're hearing the Air Quality Management District is going to say all new appliances have to be electric by 2029. So whether right now it pencils out or not, San Jose is not going to make that decision. We're not requiring it. We're saying we're going to facilitate that transition so that when the state requires it, our residents are better prepared and more likely to be able to afford it. I think that's the way we should look at it. That's kind of why I made the first statement I made. We as a city should be facilitating this transition that's coming in California. Hopefully elsewhere, I'm very frustrated it's not happening elsewhere as quickly. I was just reading last week about the effects on lots of the poorer parts of the world. People in India are dying this week because of 120-degree temperatures in places where they didn't used to happen. So, while we're doing this for Raul's son, who was with him just a second ago, because we're all going to have to be doing this. So I do expect these things to become cheaper with scale as more things go in. I do expect we'll find ways to fund it using third-party money. I gave the example of Ithaca last year. Ithaca, New York made this commitment to do this, and they're not paying a dime out of their general fund because they've raised all the private money to do it. I've talked to Carrie and others. I know you're working hard to try to find some of that funding as well. And that's what I expect the next 8 years to be, is for us to learn about where to get that funding from and provide those resources to our residents and to our city so that we can do this. We can't know all the answers today, but if we don't provide that roadmap to getting there, we won't achieve it for sure. And I think that's what's important about this. But it's a great conversation, and I think really important one. So I look forward to continuing it next week. I'm sure we'll have some of the same discussions and questions in a larger forum, but I think it's important for us in this committee to understand the distinction between us saying as a city we're forcing people to do something versus us as a city saying we're going to facilitate a process that is both necessary and will be dictated upon us if we don't. So anyway, I just want to make that point. Thanks.
Thank you. I think we're ready for the vote.
Foley,
Aye.
Perales,
Sorry, yes.
Esparza, Cohen,
Aye.
Davis.
No.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Motion carries, and we will move to open forum.
Giovanni,
Oh, am I supposed to speak about what was just being talked about?
No, this is open forum. You can speak for about items that were not on the agenda.
Oh, that were not on the agenda? Oh, shoot. Oh, I don't really have anything. I'm sorry. I just wanted to touch up on, you guys already voted on it, but I was going to say.
Thank you.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Can I have the timer started? Thank you. Hi, Blair Beekman. I missed the meeting today. I was at a doctor's appointment. It reminded me with the things on the agenda items today. I think a lesson we can learn, hopefully, or a way to work that I can mention these items is that for all the items today, for yourselves as council persons and for the people listening at home, I usually have something fairly important to say on each of the items that were listed today. And if you go over those items, I think you can, if you do a little concentration, you can think of what I would be saying on each of those items and, what could be just some simple, good, progressive ideals and logic that I tend to, I say often at public comment time that can be very applicable to the items today. I will be speaking on them again as the months go on. So I'm sorry I missed the items, but you get the gist of how I can speak about these things and where my general direction and feelings are about these items. Hope you can look at them and think of what I would be thinking of these items. Just simple, small, little progressive ideals that when repeated back to ourselves, it's just nice to hear and nice reminders for ourselves. And that's what I'm trying to learn how to do. So thanks a lot. With my remaining time, a few weeks ago, Henry Kissinger was being laughed at for the ideas of trying to create a neutral space to talk about Russia and people of the east side of Ukraine having a certain amount of issues, rights, and then the west side of Ukraine having a certain amount of rights. That was the negotiation process from the very beginning, but this country can't talk about these things honestly and openly. We have to if we were going to work towards ideas of peace. And, if we bring the ideas of reimagine, racial equity, and health and human services to the table, that's building the future of community for Ukraine.
Jill Borders.
Hi, thank you. Yes, this is Jill Borders, and I just wanted to follow up and kind of circle around to something that has been going on, which is the mobile home designation, land use designation. And a week ago, I attended the last public hearing for the budget with the mayor, and the mayor listened to my question, which was, in fact, can we find the almost $400,000 that's needed in the budget to make this happen as we thought that it was going to happen? And his response just really took me quite by surprise, I must say. He said, as you know, Jill, that was never going to happen. We didn't have the money and and I thought it was such an odd thing to say to me, as you know, Jill, because the truth is I did not know it. And I do tell the truth. I'm a truth teller. That's one thing I hope people would know about me. And so, no, I never did think that it was based on some future budgeted money that had to be gotten. And so, two things. One, I just want to say thank you. I don't know what the result was, whether Councilperson Perales was able to put a memo out or not, but even just acknowledging me and our community, I'm really grateful for that when you did that at the last meeting, saying that you thought that that was going to happen, as well as Councilmember Foley, because the both of you made me feel like I wasn't crazy. I wasn't hearing things. I didn't make it up in my head when I was at those meetings. And so thank you for that. And if nothing comes of it, I just wanted to make sure that you knew that I was appreciative of what you had said and that you are willing to go to bat for us. It means a lot. Thank you so much.
Back to committee.
All right, thank you. That was our last speaker, so our meeting is adjourned.